It's like
charging at each other.
yeah, I have a Model S and Brandon has a Model 3. So yeah, this footage didn't make it into the final video, but trying to summon those two cars in an empty parking lot, like there's no other variables, in an empty parking lot by themselves at the same time, they still had these weird moments where they're like, are you gonna go? Should I go? I'm gonna go.
Oh, let's both go at each other.
Let's both go. Yeah, that didn't make it into the video, but that was pretty funny. Yeah, that video had a bunch of different phases of what it was going to turn into when we started shooting it all those months ago, and it finally ended up coming together. But yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of videos. There's obviously been a lot in the news and a lot in the tech world since then. What you have something here for content we liked?
Yeah, and it's funny because it was a story I had written down originally to be talked about in this podcast, and then Mr. Who's the Boss made a video on it that explains it way better than.
Oh, I love this.
In like my best case scenario of writing the story for the podcast, Mr. Who's the Boss just blew my imaginary story out of the water. So
it's on a roll.
Yeah. So he made a video called "How This Wallpaper Kills Your Phone," and I just want to kind of go over it, sort of how the story's there, but I'm also going to link it in the show notes if you want to get the like really really deep dive into what's going on. So I'm sure. Did you see this on Twitter as well?
Yeah, so like the general like overview of this story is, if you just see the headline, it's like, there is a wallpaper out there. It's a picture of a sunset. If you set it as the wallpaper on your Android phone, it will nuke your phone forever.
It literally
Don't
started
do it.
as a tweet from Ice Universe saying,
yeah,
do not set this as your wallpaper, especially if it's a Samsung, I believe he said, but do not. And then,
which, of course, when you see that on Twitter, what is everyone's first instinct? Okay, here I go.
Yeah, let's try it. And then I think an article I read said there were almost 2,000 comments of people complaining that they bricked their phone.
That's so many people. When you see 1,980 comments of people who brick their phone, and you see that wallpaper, you're like, I gotta try it.
Yeah.
I gotta try it.
I guess you have to assume some people are probably like, oh, they're probably using cruddy phones. I have a great phone. It'll be fine. Or like, I bet I know a way I can add this onto here without. And there were some ways. Some people took like screenshots of it, but let's go into the video a little bit about why this happened and why this one picture is. It's not just like restarting your phone. It's not freezing it. It's literally you can't get the phone to boot up. Not even in safe mode. You just have to straight up factory default wipe your phone when you add it onto the back. So let's see. I have a little list here of what happened. So Mr. Who's the Boss saw it on Twitter, was blowing up all over Twitter. His original assumption was like, there's no way just a regular photo is doing this. Someone somehow put some malware into it and it's causing all these issues. That seems like the most reasonable excuse for it. I have no idea how someone would add malware to just a photo and that's how you open it, but like, people are smart. Stranger things have happened.
I think when I read the headline at first, that was my first assumption, where you see, oh, okay, set this wallpaper on your phone and it will, like, shut down your phone and harm it and brick it. My first thought was, oh, okay, something is either wrong with that file.
Yeah.
Like, you can embed some key, some nick in that file that harms Android phones specifically, takes advantage of some weird vulnerability. Or what it actually turned out to be, which was, like, some incompatibility with the color gamut that the photo was exported in.
So you're definitely on to something.
Right.
The way he found it out is pretty interesting, though. He did a reverse image search of it, found the original photo, which is interesting because it wasn't a phone background. It was just straight up a photo posted on like an HD wallpaper website. So it's cropped, actually. He found
best
the
websites in the world.
Oh, the
greatest.
If you don't have an ad blocker, never go to a HD website or HD wallpaper website. But so since he found the original file that wasn't cropped, he thought, well, the cropped version must be the one with the malware in it. If I download this, I can add it to my phone and it'll work. Bricked. So
he said the full size version, the original file.
I think he took the full size version and then cropped it just in the phone. It only gives you so much space to use. So
oh my God, how many phones did he brick during this video?
I don't know. It seems like it was his actual phone as well. He didn't do it on the test phone. Which,
oh no!
Come on, come on! You've got plenty of phones to test that out. But
the perils of being a tech YouTuber.
started reading up. Everyone thought the same thing as you. Color profiles. Android's default color profile is set to sRGB. This photo was set to ProPhoto RGB, which is interesting though because Android can still handle ProPhoto RGB colors. The issue, all it does is it converts it pretty much. It takes that. If you were to imagine the color spectrum, sRGB is a small triangle. ProPhoto that covers all the different colors in that color spectrum, and then ProPhoto RGB is a larger triangle. So it just kind of switches the points around.
It makes perfect sense. You know, when you see the picture, it's a photo of like a sunset, so it's an obvious high dynamic range situation where there's going to be stuff in the shadows and the trees, and then the sun is going to be really bright. So, instead of just using the standard sRGB, let's use a wider boosted color gamut so people with compatible displays can see more, like a Pro Display XDR. That would be a great place to set that as a wallpaper.
What's also interesting is he shows the difference between if you brought it into Photoshop and set it as ProPhoto RGB versus sRGB. It looks far better in sRGB. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just a beautiful landscape with the sun peering over. It looks better with some vibrance blown up in it. So, let's see. It's not just, though, that it was on that color profile. Normally, it would be able to switch the color profile to sRGB, no problem. The issue actually comes down to one single pixel in the sky that, so like watch the video if you want to see the really in-depth version of what this happens, but essentially each pixel has a luminance scale, and there's a certain formula that calculates a set number to the luminance of each pixel, and the max value that can be is at 255, and because it's very confusing, but basically because Google uses that formula and rounds numbers, it was so close to pushing that limit in the first place, but still under. When Google rounded the numbers, it pushed it over the max limit of the luminance of that pixel. I hope I'm saying all this right.
It basically was a rounding error. So like the entire photo in Pro RGB by itself, or that extra wide color gamut by itself, is not ordinarily a problem. But when you get into the clouds and the sky, and this one individual pixel happened to have such an extreme value that the sum of the red, green, and blue, when it added them up with the weights and the rounding, it was 256 instead of 255, which is what Google doesn't know what to do with that number in its conversion. So when it tries to convert, it crashes. Now, typically, you just open it in the gallery and try to convert it, and it crashes. It doesn't matter. But when you set it as your wallpaper, now it's like, okay, every time the phone turns on or wakes up or has to display the wallpaper in some way, it starts freaking out. It can't do it. It shuts down. It basically breaks the phone, and you can't do anything until you just wipe it, which is pretty brutal. I should DM him and figure out how many phones he lost to this process of finding it out. But he did it. He found it out. He found it was one single pixel, which is kind of, you couldn't even write that.
I think that's what the coolest thing about the whole story was. It's like, okay, cool, a photo with a strange color profile breaks phones, but like the fact that somehow one single pixel out of, I mean, it's an HD photo. Like there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pixels in it, yet one of them just happened to hit two numbers that caused a rounding error upwards to be over the max limit by like a single digit. Is what is causing people to literally lose data on their phones.
Top of the show notes is the link to the Mr. Who's the Boss video for sure.
Yeah, be careful clicking it. Maybe I'll just I was gonna say I'll just link the wallpaper.
I don't know. If you do happen to see that headline, don't be one of the 2,000 people that decides you have to also try it to see for yourself. Trust me, it really does. It really does break your phone. So yeah, go ahead and avoid that wallpaper for now.
Watch the videos of other people doing it if you're so interested in seeing what happens, but don't do it to your own.
Exactly. Also, in a previous episode, remember we talked about the OnePlus 8 Pro and that like sort of X-ray vision mode in the color filter camera?
Mm-hmm.
So that actually was removed or disabled. In some markets anyway, they're pushing an update where it disabled that feature due to privacy concerns. And I thought this was worth including just because it basically confirms this was unintentional.
Yeah, I mean, our main argument was, do we think this was intentional, and I think we settled on there's no way this is intentional because OnePlus markets literally every grain of any feature in any phone. So the fact that they didn't market this made us feel like it was unintentional.
And there's also a couple of theories floating around about that OnePlus, you know, they finalize these phones so long before they come out. Like, people see the phone, you know, they drop in an event, they think like they just finished making the phone the day before and they're ready to show it. Like, these phones were done.
Yeah.
And one of the theories sort of floating around is that they finished the phone like a long way before and started putting together the marketing materials, and they had this sort of spiel for the color filter camera, and then realized, wait a second, it also has this problem where it can see through fabrics, and it can see through clear plastics, and maybe that's a bit of a privacy concern. And it is its own dedicated camera, so what they did is basically nuked that feature, and then in all the marketing materials, they were absolutely as quiet as possible about that extra camera. So they were still able to say, yes, we have 4 cameras instead of 2 or whatever. But if you notice, you like read through the press materials, it's like, you have this whole extra camera, and you've been so price conscious all these years about not having NFC and not having wireless charging. So you threw in this whole extra camera just for a photo filter mode? Like, what? They didn't encourage anyone reviewing the phone to use it. They didn't show any cool features. In the keynote on stage, they had maybe one quick slide about its existence, acknowledging that there was a 4th camera on the phone with the color filter. And they even buried that color filter camera in the menus all the way to the side. So if you saw the videos about enabling it, it was like you'd have to open the camera, switch to color filters, and swipe all the way over to find that camera. So yeah, the theory is OnePlus figured it out a little too late after they added the hardware and finalized it, realized it was kind of a problem, nuked it, and still left it enabled, at least so they could justify having that hardware there, but weren't able to totally cover it up, and now here we are.
Interesting. I mean, it fits. It fits well.
Yeah.
And like it kind of fits with our theory that they still, OnePlus likes to talk about every little thing, so the fact that they didn't talk about that feels a little, I don't know if sketchy is the right term, but it's not like, because it, like you said, it sees through some plastics and it can see through some clothing material, but it's only like super, super thin clothing material, so.
But you can see that headline writing itself.
Yeah, I mean, like
if you
all
work
it has
for them,
to do
you know?
is, one little piece of clothing, if you have the picture, and then that's not, the headline doesn't say sees through like 1% of clothing, it says sees through clothing, and then it looks terrible, so.
Yeah, so I guess they were smart about, you know, when the headlines did start to come out, they were like, oh, what do you know, it does have some privacy concerns, so they're pushing a little software update to trace back those steps.
Yeah, so like you said,
I didn't really ever use it.
I think they disabled it on, it's called Hydrogen OS, is the China version of Oxygen OS, from what I'm
Right.
reading, and then Oxygen OS, so they already disabled it there, and then they're pushing some sort of update through Oxygen OS, so I guess have fun using it for a little while, but it's about to be gone.
Let me just see if I still have it. Photochrome. I still have it, so far it's not gone from my OS, but we'll see if they leave that longer and nuke that too. Alright, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back, we'll talk future products, both by Google and Apple. Waveform is brought to you by Betterment. Most of us probably ended up with our bank the same way we ended up with our friends in elementary school. They were just the closest to our home, or our parents chose them for us, and keeping that bank, and those friends, works fine for a while, but at some point you realize there's more out there, and you start to choose friends because they have the same interests, and you can do the same when it comes to where you keep your money. You choose better. I know a lot of people who aren't necessarily happy with their bank, whether it's about overdraft fees or ATM fees, or just the complexities on how to avoid foreign transaction fees when traveling. That's where Betterment comes in. So that's why 10 years after disrupting the financial service industry and helping hundreds of thousands of customers invest their money automatically, Betterment built a checking account that's designed to work for you, because they believe that when it comes to managing your day-to-day cash, fine is no longer good enough, and that because that's the way it's always been, is no longer an acceptable answer. With Betterment Checking, you'll get reimbursed for every fee and foreign transaction access your own money. There's no overdraft or other fees, no minimum balance requirements to worry about, and Betterment's mobile app means that the nearest branch is always in your pocket. Check your balance, lock your card if it's misplaced, and use your tap-to-pay debit card anywhere Visa is accepted. It's time for you to put your financial wellness first. Download the Betterment app today. That's BETTERMENT for the betterment of you. Checking will be provided by Betterment Financial LLC in partnership with NBKC Bank. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by SanDisk. So I'm not the best at keeping my smartphones free of clutter. Like when I'm testing a phone, I take a ton of photos and videos, and then I'm playing games, testing performance, and downloading a bunch of podcasts and movies and stuff. Surprisingly, I find myself running out of space every once in a while. No one likes rifling through their photos trying to delete the ones they're not sure if they want anymore just to make some more space for a new podcast. That's why I now rely on SanDisk's data storage solutions to free up space on my phone. The SanDisk iXpand Flash Drive Go is made for iPhones with a Lightning port, and it's a new and easy way to handle the storage on your iPhone. You can download the iXpand app and easily transfer files from your phone directly onto the drive, and then you can set an auto backup for every time you plug the drive in. And you can even take photos directly to that drive. And the options range from 128 to 256 gigs, great for anyone who just grabbed a 64 gig iPhone and are now realizing they need more space. And it's not just for iPhones. SanDisk also offers the Extreme microSD UHSI card for Android devices with a microSD card slot, or the Ultra Dual Drive Lux USB Type-C flash drive for Android devices with a USB-C port. This is going to really help me when I'm reviewing smartphone cameras, especially with this P40 Pro I'm doing now, because now I can just snag all the sample photos that I take while I'm testing and easily transfer them onto my computer so that I can have them while I'm editing the review. Trust me, you need SanDisk to free up space on your phone too, and right now you can get 10% off your first order of these SanDisk products, but only when you go to sandisk.com/waveform. That's SANDISK.com/WAVEFORM. Don't wait, sandisk.com/waveform. Alright, welcome back to Waveform. So, there's some products on the horizon. Some interesting ones. Some of them rumored, some of them a little more concrete than others. And this is the part where we talk about those because we're tech geeks. The first one is a rumored iMac refresh with a new iPad Pro-like design.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't, you don't have to say iPad Pro-like. I think the iMac, hot take, iMac is ugly.
It's dated. It's very dated looking.
It's really dated.
Because I used to use an iMac in my video class in high school, and honestly, no, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong iMac, but like, ever since they've done just a small, like a stand in the back, the main change that's happened is just the thinness of it, which honestly, I don't care about the thinness as much, especially when I'm moving the thing, because moving an iMac around is like sharp on your hands.
Yeah.
That really shouldn't affect you buying an iMac at all, but for real, that giant chin with the Apple logo just feels very, very dated.
There's a couple things that I just don't like about the iMac's design. I had the iMac Pro, which is the darker, like space gray version of the iMac, as my main computer for a little while. And obviously it's a powerful computer and it's an all-in-one and it's a fantastic 5K display. But a couple things about it. One, the chin, like you said, with the big Apple logo on it, really big. Number two, the bezels are thick on all four sides. The bezels are really thick. And that's not a problem so much as I've been a dual monitor person for so long that I wanted to put another monitor next to the iMac, but no monitor looks right sitting next to the iMac that just has a gigantic bezel. I don't want to put another iMac next to the iMac. That's kind of weird. That's a waste. So what am I putting, just a totally different looking monitor? It didn't sit right with me. So I stayed to one monitor just because it looked that dumb.
I mean, think about it. If you're just doing a normal two monitor setup, you already have to deal with the two bezels between that, and that's already kind of annoying. Now imagine
doubling it.
Yeah, the bezel on a regular iMac is already the size of two regular monitor bezels put together. It's like you're scrolling through a whole nother screen that you. Yeah,
it's a lot of space. So the chin, the bezels, and then how much they round everything. So the screen itself is rectangular, but they really round off like the whole aesthetic of the iMac, which again I kind of prefer. And this is something I think they've found with the iPad Pro. Like I really prefer the design language of that like sort of boxier, little more trimmed up, squared, clean look. And that's the new rumor. So according to Sonny Dixon, the new iMac will have this iPad Pro like design language, thinner bezels, and we're also seeing potentially Face ID, which I'm not
I missed
super. Yeah, I'm not super like into Face ID. I think I'd be more into it on a laptop. But I think all of this is improved from the current iMac. I would love that.
I would be interested in Face ID. That seems kind of nice to me. Like sitting down at your computer is the one place that I'm almost never gonna have anything on that could interrupt Face ID. Like right now, we're seeing the biggest issues with face masks. But like normally, if you're sitting down, maybe some offices are requiring face masks, but I think most of them are super like restricted to how many people go in. So if I'm sitting in my house, I'm never wearing a face mask, never wearing sunglasses, I'm never wearing a scarf. So like it would be nice. No, I usually don't wear a scarf. I don't wear my ski mask when it's really cold. So I mean, being able to just make sure my computer's secure, but sit down at it and it just unlocks actually seems kind of nice.
Yeah, so I'll take it back. Sonny Dixon isn't the one who said Face ID,
Okay.
so I'll read his actual tweet here. He says, "New iMac coming at WWDC, iPad Pro design language with Pro Display like bezels, T2 chip, AMD Navi GPU, and no more Fusion Drive." Fusion Drive, I thought was sort of on its way out anyway. That's the sort of combo between hard drives and SSDs that they've offered. I think hard drives should be pretty much done in Apple's high-end lineup.
I think regular hard drives should be done in anybody's lineup at this point.
Yeah, especially if you're main boot drive. So that's fine to see it go. The T2 chip is, I think, what suggests Face ID, but T2, we already have a T1 chip, which is for security and it's encrypting everything on the drive, and a T2 chip suggests some more security features. But yeah, I think just the aesthetic. You can see the render here in the article. We'll link that in the show notes, but that aesthetic is pretty nice.
Yeah, for people who can't see, essentially imagine a giant iPad Pro and then just a regular iMac kind of like L stand behind it, and it looks sleek. It's really weird seeing something that's potentially an iMac that's just actually just widescreen and not this giant square, because 10% of it on the bottom is totally useless, and a chin. So it looks way nice. Bezels look really thin. It looks sleek. It just looks really sleek. Now that's just a random mock-up they did based on iPad Pro-like design.
It's like if you gave me like the tools to design my own iMac, I would just take the iPad Pro and stretch it and put it on a stand. But here's my devil's advocate, or at least one thing that I would like to see different.
Okay.
The current Pro Display XDR and the current iMac have all the ports on the back still. The iPad Pro has ports on the side. I would be totally fine with a little bit of a thicker, boxy design and just put all the ports on the side. The ones that you want to hide, where it's like a USB, your power, put those on the back. But give me like one or two things like the SD card on the side. Give me like two USB-C on the side. Just so I don't have to reach behind the thing every time and blindly fumble for it. You know?
I feel like I can agree with you with SD card in this. I would hate to see something that finally looks aesthetically pleasing and then having USB wires coming out of the side of it all the time. That would just like, and I'm, out of everybody who has a desk at work, mine is always the messiest and the least clean looking, and that would drive me wild. So I think that's saying quite a bit. So like, finally I get this sleek new iMac, and then I just have like a flash drive and my mouse. I'm one of the only people who still use a wired mouse at work, but like my wired mouse coming out of my monitor would drive me nuts, I think.
It's just I hate having to put the SD card in the back. I have to like spin the Mac around every time. I can never find it.
What about this? And it's still not perfectly aesthetic, but what if they had the ports, the wires for the ports come down the stand in the back, and the front of the stand would lift up a little bit, and you had like 4 USB ports on the front little width of the stand, and you would just plug it into the bottom part of it.
to see that.
Did
Again,
I
just
explain
like-
that well? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if I'm just plugging in like a temporary thing, like
Mhm.
a dongle, a reader, an SD card, something that's like not going to just be sitting there forever, and I just want a quick access to just
You want
plug it in.
Okay.
You know, I'll just take it on the side. I don't know. That's what I'm looking at this render and thinking about is like how it compares to the current iMac.
Mhm.
But other than that, you know, if they're giving it the flexibility. Ooh, here's another question. Is it going to articulate at all? Probably not. The current iMac just tilts.
Tilts.
There's
Yeah.
no height adjust. There's no swiveling. There's no rotating. I assume this will be the same stand, basically,
Mhm.
not the Pro Display stand.
Yeah, it's not the best
$1,000.
stand in the world. It looks nice, but when you're tall like us, or like Quinn's had a huge issue with, he had to
Yeah, you gotta
mount
flip that
his. Yeah, like when you're tall, you want it standing up. We had it on the what's the name of those stands? 12 South, right?
Oh yeah, they're 12 South
Those are great, but like I just want a monitor that actually sits up. We're tall. If you're taller than 6 feet and you're sitting at a monitor like that, your posture is probably terrible.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see. It'll probably, I assume, end up being the same, like non-adjustable.
Mhm.
Maybe they'll sell an optional like $1,000 accessory that'll have you able to tilt and adjust height and things like that. Wouldn't that
Maybe
be
they'll let
very
you put
cool?
wheels on the bottom of it for $700.
Whoa, wheels on the iMac stand. That would be something. Actually, I would be so down for that. I'd be
I
down.
don't even want to know the reason why you'd be down for that.
I just want to see an iMac rolling around on wheels. I don't know. It's just a part of me wants to see that. No, yeah, that's cool. I think hopefully we see this at WWDC. There's a bunch of things we're thinking we're going to see at WWDC. And actually, that sort of dovetails right into the other Horizon thing that we've been looking forward to for a while. And we talked about this for a little bit in the episode with Mark Gurman, where we're hoping to see Apple move to their own ARM chips. And so the headline that will link from Bloomberg from Mark Gurman himself, Apple is preparing to announce a shift to its own main processors in Mac computers, replacing chips from Intel as early as this month at its annual developer conference, WWDC. I am super ready for this. Now, there's a bunch of reactions to it that I want to address, because I think everybody, once they see that headline, goes, whoa, Apple's going to change all their stuff right now. This is the type of thing that happens in stages, and it can't just all happen at once because of the way architectures work. Apple makes their own chips already for the iPad and the iPhone, right? See those A12X Bionic fun name chips, and they're incredible. And so we've always wondered, why don't they put those in their laptops? And of course, it's because developers need to change their apps, and the operating system needs to run differently. But as they prepare all this with developers behind the scenes, moving over platforms, you know, you can start to see maybe they have a new 12-inch MacBook with this ARM chip in it with their own design processors. Maybe they have, slowly after that, a new MacBook Pro. But I think at the higher end, the iMacs and iMac Pros and Mac Pros of the world, people are like, oh man, I just bought an iMac and now they're going to move chips. Like that's not anywhere, I don't think, anytime soon. You know, we might see this announcement at WWDC that they have begun working on it and will start replacing Intel in maybe their first laptop this year or something like that. But I think, you know, we just got Mac Pros in the studio. If you're expecting this new iMac refresh, I think that'll have Intel chips. I don't think it's going to be straight through the lineup all at once. That being said, I'm super looking forward to it.
I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. I don't really know much about ARM chips, and I've always been I almost only ever use Mac at work, so I'm totally a Windows guy, and that's not a good excuse for that. But I've always used AMD or Intel, so I guess the main way I'm seeing it from what you've described so far is compare it to like an iPhone and an iPad. Now Apple's
It's
creating
like-
their own chips, and it's a new way. From the couple things I've read, it's very confusing, but efficiency seems to be a huge reason.
Efficiency
towards
and power. So, I mean, they've put these chips in iPad Pro and iPhone, right? So, like, the universal language, even if you're on Windows, is like performance numbers and benchmarks speak to you, right?
Yeah.
So, imagine in the thermal envelope of an iPad Pro, they've put a chip that is more powerful and more efficient than the chips in a MacBook Air. They perform better and they're more efficient. So now imagine like making a bigger version of that in the MacBook Air. It already outperforms the MacBook Air on paper and benchmarks. So you can imagine like Apple putting their own chip in the MacBook Air. Suddenly that's a really impressively powerful laptop. And when you have more thermal envelope and you have like a better form factor, now you imagine giving it MacBook Pro type space and even bigger chip. And the efficiency is already great because you already see iOS is so well optimized. You imagine macOS being well optimized as well, and you toss like 16 gigs of RAM and a gigantic Apple designed chip in a MacBook Pro, that thing is going to scream.
Yeah.
So I think the promise of what could happen from the higher overhead you get from moving out of just an iPhone or just an iPad and moving into a big old laptop that's the exciting part.
Okay, so it's just the next step in Apple's ecosystem getting that much stronger and creating that much more of a gap between, everything working seamlessly together and parts that we're used to and everything else that have to mesh together as best as possible.
And it's just smart by them. I mean, we already know they're great with vertical integration, but we've seen their hints of it. They already make the T1 chip like we talked about. They have start to put their own chips in their machines. But basically taking your reliance away from Intel, taking that huge, not that burden off of Intel, but just not having to wait for Intel's improvement anymore for your own incremental improvements is also huge. So you can imagine, when the new iPad Pro comes out and it's twice as fast as the last one, imagine that in a laptop. Like there's so many different doors that open up from Apple. Essentially, it's just as big of a story. It's just as big of a story for them to move away from Intel as it is for them to make their own chips. So it's twofold.
Yeah, true.
I'm ready.
Cool. When is WWDC again? There's a specific date, right? It's very soon, I believe.
It might be by our next episode, and we might have a lot to say about it when it comes out. But WWDC 2020 is expected. Let me find the exact date. June 22nd.
Oh, my birthday.
So
cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we have an episode maybe like a day or two after that?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Speaking of big conferences that are supposed to be going on, we've officially missed Google I/O. And what was that? It was set to happen May 12th to 14th. Obviously, COVID 2020 happened, and now they just straight up canceled it. But I guess what we were all hoping for out of that the most is the Pixel 4a. And now that it's been officially canceled, we were all waiting for it. Then they announced Android 11, but we still don't see anything about Pixel 4a. So where is it?
The beta. Yeah, where is Pixel 4a? Huh. So last year at Google I/O was Pixel 3a. So that was the first budget edition Pixel. Yeah. And so we sort of, with the cancellation of Google I/O, now the Pixel 4a is sort of in limbo. That was a phone we were looking forward to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
I mean, like, it's funny because we know mostly about it because Google is fantastic at hiding everything and definitely not leaking every little piece of information about it. So we kind of have all of it, but it was supposed to be May. Then there were some rumors of June, but now the rumors seem to be July-ish, like a week or two into July. So we're still waiting for that. Do you want to go over kind of like this? I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast at all, right? What we're expected to see from it?
Maybe not, but we can go over it.
Yeah, let's do a quick overview of what we're expecting to see.
So I think contextualizing it just to have on our radar what Pixel 3a was. Pixel 3a was not the most powerful, not the most high-end phone, not even the most well-built, but it had the best camera for the price. Mm-hmm. It was $400, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It launched and it just has basically the same camera as the Pixel that came before it. Awesome phone. Awesome budget phone.
Sure. Yeah.
So, for Pixel 4a, we're sort of looking forward to a bit of a design update, but again, still, it's Google, it's a Pixel, it's not the highest end hardware. We're going to see probably Snapdragon 730, maybe 6 gigs of RAM.
I think that was a big thing that everyone was excited about was the same amount of RAM as the flagship. Which is pretty big.
Then you're talking maybe 64 or 128 gigs of storage, probably a full screen display, probably like a 1080p OLED display, but we're we're seeing all sorts of different rumors still about whether they do a punch out.
I think last I heard was hole punch, which is interesting because I would consider that more advanced than the regular Pixel 4, and it's horrific for which is I still use it. I still hate it. I still would prefer the like bathtub notch, to be completely honest. So
Oh my god.
hole punch is really neat, and I hope they follow that route and not the this like asymmetrical crud.
Right. So, something like we're also seeing 3,000 milliamp hour batteries, something like that, and probably also a similar build quality. But again, new higher end cameras, same recording, basically looking like Pixel 4 camera, which is, in my opinion, not even gonna lie, still my favorite single camera setup. They're not gonna have an ultra wide probably, they're not gonna have a telephoto, it'll just be a single camera setup. And that's sort of the same formula. A little updated design for the 3A, now you have a 4A. The question now, though, is this is coming out after we just saw iPhone SE, which is now, Apple's in this $400 brand new phone, pretty good camera space. How do you think those two line up?
I mean, as someone who's used Pixels for the last 2 years, I honestly think SE just blows it out of the water. If this is what we're looking at, the biggest thing you think about right here is like iPhone and Pixel cameras, even though you said Pixel is your favorite, they are so close, like so remarkably close, and Apple's even better in some ways, but like either way, you're thinking of S tier cameras. But then immediately look to the processor, which is usually one of the next most important things. And
Yeah, the future proof wise. Okay, so here I'll break down what I think the Pixel wins at,
okay,
and what I think
Yeah,
the
yeah,
iPhone
let's
wins
go.
at. So Pixel 4a will beat iPhone SE, in my opinion, at the camera by a little bit. I mean, they're both going to be very good for the price, but if they're both $400, I'll give the edge to the Pixel 4a's camera, single camera setup.
Okay.
The Pixel 4a has a headphone jack. It's supposed to have a headphone jack. That's an advantage because the iPhone SE doesn't. And that's it.
So one other thing, if it has
Maybe
hole
the
punch
screen?
cut out, yeah, like that.
Okay.
I'll take a hole punch cut out over big bezels any day.
True, yeah.
But like to me, I don't think the camera being better, like giving something the edge, isn't enough of a reason to buy it. I don't think like giving something the
just
edge means it's so much tiny better.
Yeah.
I mean, the ultimate thing is if you prefer Android over iOS.
Right, it's going to be a bunch of little usability things, like Android over iOS is one, headphone jack is one. Also, where they put the fingerprint reader will be another one.
It sounds like it's gonna be on the back.
Which I think is fine.
I think that's
The
great.
iPhone SE is just the home button, which everyone already knows and is used to, and that's fine too. But I really like the back fingerprint reader, so that could be a little thing.
Yeah, that gives you the benefit of having the hole punch cut out, like we talked about, and both of them right now are actually winding up being almost improvements because we're all wearing masks all the time. So like having an actual physical fingerprint sensor seems to be this like 2020 out of the blue like big improvement.
OnePlus 8. Honestly, most of the phones I'm using now, I'm using fingerprint over Face ID, Face Unlock. So. But when you look on the other side of the aisle, you have iPhone SE, and you're going to have iOS, which for a lot of people is where they want to be. Battery life is maybe a toss-up. We don't know how the battery is on the Pixel 4a yet, but we'll see. And of course, you have performance. You have the latest Apple chipset versus Snapdragon 730. I think that's a clear win for Apple. Then you get to overall value. When you're looking at this price, how long does this phone last for $400?
Yeah.
If the iPhone has twice as many years of software updates, that's major. That's a major key for that phone. So iPhone SE is probably going to win that value department. And yeah, it might tie on camera, be a little worse, and has a little bigger bezels, but
So
yeah.
here's something to consider. I've noticed a lot of people talking about iPhone SE battery life, and people seem to be all over the place on what they're getting. You found it to be pretty good, but you are someone who doesn't play a lot of games. I've read a lot of stuff saying people who play games on their phone, because it's a smaller battery using an A13, it is very power hungry because when you're gaming, you're using that so much more. So people are apparently chewing through iPhone batteries.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I would describe a lot of my use of an iPhone especially as pretty, like, standard, if I'm not doing gaming, I'm on Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Mhm.
taking photos, web browsing, email, that sort of thing. Like, I could do that all day on an A13 because that's just sipping power. But at the end of the day, the A13 is new and it's the highest end chip with this huge amount of power when you want to put it towards something. So even though it's only a 768p display, if you're gaming, it's going to start to really chew through power. And when you're at that max power on a tiny battery, you can chew through it. So that's good to note, is that if you are gaming a lot on your phone, you probably don't want to get a budget phone.
Yeah, I mean, if you're picking
Basically.
between two of them, I guess between 4A and SE, you're gonna pick, do I want the best performance on my phone? And then you probably go SE, but then you realize you're gonna need like a battery bank, or you're gonna be plugged into the wall at home.
Yeah.
Or is it like, am I fine with a little bit worse of an experience and overall the processor playing the game to its max potential, but I'm okay with the fact that I'm on the bus and I don't have a place to plug it in, or I'm on the train and I can play for hours and hours. Like the Pixel 4a is going to be able to play those games for longer on its battery,
Yeah.
like because it has a smaller, less power hungry processor and a bigger battery.
Yeah, I don't know as much about the Snapdragon 730. Like, that might not,
Yeah,
maybe, I don't know if that trade-off is even going to be that great. Like a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. I don't know. But this is why we review the phones, is we have to test them and see. But yeah, it's an uphill battle now that you're fighting Apple for $400. That'll be interesting.
So also interestingly, there were some rumors of a Pixel 4a XL coming out. Well,
Maybe.
unfortunately, now it seems to be like there's no chance that happens. I mean, all they were looking at was because it's bigger, it has a bigger battery, but it was going to add the second camera, which everyone assumes is telephoto, like the Pixel 4. So
So it would just be like a cheaper,
it'd
more
just be a,
skilled Pixel 4.
pretty much. I wonder,
Basically.
would it have? I'm guessing it had hole punch cut out, so it would look better than the Pixel 4. Again,
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I've been using Pixel 4 because I'm testing new Android beta, but it's like you get used to that forehead pretty quickly. Like, if you're just staring at the forehead, you're like, oh, this is so ugly. Why did they make it like this?
that's
But
the issue.
As far as
it's like
buying
you
it,
forget it, and then you notice it, and then you're like, that stinks.
and you're like, why did I buy
I'm
this?
not a fan of that.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough.
And then only other thing I have, so I have like a scenario here, because at this point, Pixel 4a is potentially releasing in July, but at that point we're really starting to creep up on like smartphone season when Google regularly releases their flagships. So like normally you have like a 6-month gap in between their mid-range and their flagship. Now we're getting really close. I guess my main thing is, why don't companies, I'm sure they have market research, but I would just like to know, why do they decide to release like their mid-range phone at a completely different time than their flagship phone, especially when they're almost putting it under the same like what am I trying to say? It's like the same lineup. Like I get Galaxy S20 and Galaxy Note 20 are two completely separate things, but like
I think I know what you mean. I think Samsung is a little bit of an unusual one because they don't do this, but I think most of the big players want to have their flagship phone out as its own thing, and also ideally around the holidays. So you see like, iPhone in September, you see Pixel in October, you see these bigger phones coming out, and I think they separate it from their budget phone launch events so that mentally you separate them too. And sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes they'll have iPhone SE alongside another phone. But I just think when you have your big main, this is our killer, this is the one you should buy phone, they want all the attention on that. And if they're doing anything else separately, it's going to be an even higher end crazy folding one or something like that.
yeah, I guess I see it. So like in terms of Apple, for example, the SE looks totally different. It doesn't, like the 11 and 11 Pro and the 11 Pro Max all coming out have a similar face to them. You know what I mean? Like, it has that, this is Apple, this is the new phone, this is what it looks like, it has a notch and everything. So if then you're also tossing in the 8, it has these big bezels, it just doesn't look like it fits in that lineup. But then on the other hand, like you said, before the holidays, I'm a kid, I tell my parents I want a new iPhone, there is a way higher chance that when my parents go into Verizon or T-Mobile and they're like, my kid wants a new iPhone for Christmas, they're gonna buy the SE because that's the phone a younger kid in middle school probably deserves over a $1,200 iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I guess I don't. It feels to me strange why they come out at two different times, but like you said, I guess mixing them,
Yeah, I mean, I
puts
think
the focus on.
when you pull back the curtain, it's probably like in a dream world, they could just, as soon as they're done planning and finalizing the phone, they can just put it out. But I think since there's like different teams working in parallel doing these different phones, it's like, well, we're gonna finalize the phone and we're gonna come up with everything, but we also need to pick an ideal time for it to come out. And they probably have separate slots for like, all right, the flagship phone's coming out, it's done in June, let's drop it in September. Oh, the budget one's done at the same time? Alright, let's drop it 6 months after that. And it's like, I don't know.
I guess
everyone has a different strategy.
news
But I feel like they want to
cycles
separate. Oh, that's
like
like OnePlus.
now you all get a news cycle in the middle of the summer as well. It just like I feel bad for all those people who are constantly keeping their old phone ready to upgrade and they're like, I'm ready for the Pixel 4, it's gonna be amazing. Oh, it was the Pixel 4. I'm going to now maybe wait a little longer. Whereas like maybe if Pixel 4a came out at the same time as Pixel 4, they would have felt better upgrading knowing it was half the price of it, because still it's an upgrade. You're getting new operating system, like you're getting the better cameras and everything. And some people are at this point where the phone screen is completely cracked. You know, the battery life is terrible because they've been holding onto it for so long. But then the phone they've been waiting for comes out and it sucks. And now you've just waited for so long. So lots to think about. I'm rambling.
Everyone's got different strategies. It's like, imagine you have 3 YouTube videos you just finished making, 3 different videos. Do you drop them all at the same time? Or do you pick one to drop now, pick another one to drop a couple days later, and then another one to drop a week later? Everyone has a different answer probably to why they would do a certain thing. But, you know, that's why I don't work for all these companies. We'll see what they decide to do. Alright, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll do Twitter Q&A. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Grammarly. So I type, like, a lot. I know you all see the videos, and you realize how much time is spent getting the perfect shot, but when we're not in production, a lot of time is spent typing the script for the next video. A-roll can be the most frustrating part of a shoot, whether there's noise or changes in lighting or any distractions. If I have to reread lines because of a typo in the script, it's just going to result in more editing that I have to do on later. So that's why when I type my video scripts, I use Grammarly to make sure the lines are always correct. Whether you're communicating with your team online or working on a project, Grammarly is the digital writing tool you can always rely on to get your messages across clearly and effectively. Grammarly works across multiple platforms including Gmail, Google Docs, and Slack. And there's more to writing well than catching spelling mistakes. Grammarly can help you write confidently no matter where you are. Although my favorite way of using Grammarly is still the closest thing I'll ever have to an edit tweet button. Grammarly Premium helps you write like a pro with advanced real-time feedback. Level up your writing for work, for school, or on personal projects. Premium features include advanced suggestions on grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, and style. It's the perfect writing tool for anyone who wants to stand out with every word. Get 20% off Grammarly Premium when you sign up at grammarly.com/wave. That's 20% off Grammarly Premium at grammarly.com/wave. GRAMMARLY.com/wave. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Simplify. A lot is up in the air right now, especially when it comes to personal finances. Spending habits have changed while we're staying at home more, huge grocery orders, lots of delivery. I've probably doubled the amount of at-home workout gear.
So Claire and I have actually been using Simplify to help us set a budget and create savings because we're looking to buy a house next year. So it's been really helpful being able to just easily see what our budget's doing and how much we're saving towards meeting our goal.
So yeah, even though we're at home more often, as consumers, we're probably not saving as much as we'd like to be. So if you want to get a jump start on planning for the future, Simplify makes it easy to track your spending so you can budget smarter. Start healthier financial habits and achieve your long-term goals with Simplify by Quicken. Simplify makes it easy to see the big picture, staying on top of your spending, and save like a pro. Say goodbye to surprise charges from subscriptions you forgot you're signed up for. Simplify makes it easy to monitor all of your spending habits so you're never in the dark. With more than 30 years of personal finance expertise built into one easy-to-use platform, Simplify is more comprehensive than other apps without any third-party ads. Focus on insights, not input. Other financial apps feel like they guilt you for not meeting your goals. No judgment here. They won't overwhelm you with every dollar you're off by. Skip the lengthy explanations and irrelevant details. Get the information you need to make smarter decisions towards achieving your goals. Start your 30-day free trial of Simplify today when you download the app or visit simplifymoney.com/waveform. That's SIMPLIFI money.com/waveform. Alright, welcome back to Waveform. And as we have done as often as we can, we didn't do it last episode, but as we typically like to do, we ask what you wanted to know on Twitter at WVFRM. You can tweet at us, get in touch, shoot your questions over, and you guys had some good ones. So we're going to talk about some of those now.
I have one kind of goes back almost to last week's episode in terms of sponsors.
Okay.
So let's see. When a company sponsors you to try their product, how long do you spend trying out their product to determine if you're happy to have them with a sponsor, or do you just accept the sponsor?
Yeah, it's I'd say the amount of time I test a sponsor product is definitely different from the amount of time I'm reviewing, like I'm spending to test a review.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if it's a sponsor product, they have a couple points that they probably want you to highlight, and I just want to go through and make sure those all do what they say. Meanwhile, if I'm testing for a review, I'm going to find things that work. I'm going to find things that don't work. I'm going to find things that I wish were a little different. I'm going to find bugs. I'm going to find all kinds of stuff, and all of that goes into should you buy it or not, versus just a quicker sponsored message.
Yeah, I think most sponsored things are along the lines of like an unboxing or a first impression. So sometimes there's barely, the video is the quote unquote testing. It's so as long as it at that point, if there's not a lot of testing to do beforehand, then it just we have to know there's something interesting enough in that product that we feel like will make a good video. Like a sponsor doesn't come through unless it's going to make a good video for some reason. Something out of the box, something new, whether that new thing is great yet. Sometimes it's just interesting to see, so
Or just worth sharing.
yeah, something has to come to us that we think is going to make an interesting video for you guys, and then that's how we move forward with sponsors.
I see another one here. You've mentioned before that people should not buy products with the promise of future software updates. Where do you stand on that now, and do you expect it to change in the near future, especially in light of your most recent Tesla video? And to answer that, I 100% stand by that still. I do not think you should, in tech, buy a product based on the potential of future updates or changes. I think you should spend your money on what you absolutely know you're going to get, and anything you get in the future is a bonus. Now, some companies, like I mentioned in that Tesla video, have a pretty great track record of software updates and future bonuses, if you will, in the form of software updates. And it's still so weird. Like, I wouldn't buy a Tesla hoping that it maybe gets full self-driving and this other unannounced feature that's rumored. I wouldn't do that. If you're not happy with the car without that feature, don't buy it. But yeah, I think there's, you look at the company's track record and you're happy with what you're buying, but maybe you're in for a little bit extra down the road.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to say, like, if you buy something and you're really excited about something it doesn't have, and you're going to be really bummed out when it doesn't have that, you obviously should not buy that product because
assume it won't get it.
Yeah, it's just like the chances of it not getting that are great. You said there's companies with great track records, but if you're really in a situation where you're making the decision and putting money that you've saved towards that decision, don't save that money for something that's not there yet. Either wait for it or pick something else that has it. It's not going to be worth spending all that money and then having the day when you find out it's never coming. Okay, I think this is an interesting one for you. I know my answer, no problem. But you are somebody. Okay, so I'm someone who uses Windows at home and I use Android. You are someone who prefers prefers the Android side on phones, but you prefer the Mac side on computers.
Right.
If you had to go all in and use one combo forever, is it Mac and iPhone or Windows and Android?
It's Mac and iPhone.
I kind of thought that's where it was going, but
Yeah, the ecosystem, as restrictive as it is, you've seen how much people love living in those walls. Like the Blue Bubble Squad, like, dude, people love that. I happen to be a tech reviewer, and I'm a big fan of the customization of Android, and I'm super into that. But if you had to nuke Android for me or nuke Macs for me, nuking Macs is a much bigger problem.
yeah,
So yeah,
I feel like there's one thing you and I both do that answers that question. You edit in Final Cut and you don't want to go to anything else because that is, you spend so much time editing, that's your favorite way to use it, you don't want to change that. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So then it's much easier to change how you use your cell phone because the other product is still great, easy. I play games. I play a lot of games. There's no gaming on Macs like there is on Windows, or at least as easily as it is. So I would much rather, I'm already on Android, but if I was on iPhone, I'd rather switch that because I want to continue playing my games. That's my deal. Ultimately, phones are amazing, but like it would be pretty easy to switch to the other software. Where when you have something that's part of your everyday life, that's a bad example because the phone is a part of your everyday life. But I feel like
it's what feels more critical to
yeah.
you. It's funny, the more you say, like, I guess I could see it, I'm trying to imagine a world without Macs for me, and I have to switch to Premiere, which is actually not the end of the world. I just don't have my plugins, but I've done Premiere. I edited there for years. But getting rid of, I feel like I'd use my two different phones more similarly than I would use the two different desktop operating systems. I think that's what it comes down to. I can use my iPhone and be fine, almost the same way I use my Android phone, almost. But switching to Windows would require a lot more change, so I guess that's where my answer comes from.
Yeah, and as much as I love Windows, using Mac at work, there are very obviously some much better features on Mac. I have to say, dealing with sound on Windows is like the most frustrating thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know why they can't figure out just how to make like plugging in a microphone or plugging in headphones. I don't understand how they can make it so difficult. It's impressive. This might sound really weird to some people, but like when you click open your sound thing in Windows and you have 10 different options, is just mind blowing. It's so dumb. But yeah. Okay, so I'm Windows, Android, you're Mac, iPhone.
Oh my god, this question. It's 2020. What tech are you the most disappointed in so far? What tech did you have expectations for that were way beyond its current state? Whoa. Oh man.
Are we at the point where 2020 sucks so bad that all tech is just exciting and nothing is as disappointing as just the world of 2020?
Yeah, that might be where I'm at right now. It's like, a little minor update comes out for the MacBook Pro with a new keyboard, and I'm like, this is it, it's my next laptop. Yeah, and I try to keep my expectations pretty in check. I think expectations are the cause for disappointment most often. So, as far as things that had really high hopes and expectations for, I think those are still all like on the horizon. Like Galaxy Fold 2, I'm really interested in. Galaxy Note 20, Pixel 5, iPhone 12, all these things that I'm really like hyped about are still in the works. So
I was pretty disappointed about the new Escobar phone.
Oh man. Were you? I don't know what I expected. Like, I guess I shouldn't have been too shocked.
I'm just kidding.
Wrapped phone.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of anything specific I had high hopes for that didn't meet those hopes, but 2020 also feels like it's been going on for 10 years, so I have no sense of what's really happening at this point.
I'll say Huawei's app situation I was hoping would be better by now.
That's a good point.
I'm testing the P40 Pro Plus right now, and it's like I'm so tired of like trying to get it to work. Like putting my SIM card in that phone, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Time to load the apps, and it's just not. It's not fun.
That's a good answer. It's disappointing that we basically can't use the P40 like at all in the US.
Yeah, because it's a great dude. That phone is like a rock. It's made of ceramic now. It's got these
Really?
incredible cameras. I think it's honestly probably the hardware champ. I mean, I just got it. I'm testing it now. But as far as like just straight up hardware on the outside, amazing phone. And it's quickly nuked by like the fact that it just takes you so like I could never recommend that phone in the U.S. So maybe that's the
I
disappointment.
think that's a good answer. I'm always interested with Huawei and our smartphone bracket. It always seems to do so well, and when you just feel them, their hardware is just like second to none lately. It's such a shame that you basically can't use it in the U.S. So there you go. Here's one quickly. I think it's going to be towards me because it's about editing. It's just how long does it take to edit the podcast? Not too long, a couple hours. I'd say like it's definitely beneficial that we sync up all the audio beforehand, and super easy to do that. I'm not dealing with video. Pretty much all I'm cutting out is a lot of ums or dead space or me totally fumbling over words. So what you listen to I still sound like an idiot, but I sound like less of an idiot because I get to edit it in between. But we do have a funny story. We had a guest on once who was recording on their either iPad or MacBook, and they were listening to the Zoom call on their headphones, their AirPods, and managed to not connect them correctly. So all of our call was playing out of the speakers, which was then getting picked up from the microphone. So that entire podcast, I had to manually delete anytime Marquez and I were talking from that voice, that track. So that podcast probably took 8 or 9 hours to edit because it was just a mess. There was definitely a point in the beginning where I just put my head down and knew how long of a day I was going to have. Especially because we usually record these on Wednesdays and they release Friday morning. So like I had Wednesday night and Thursday to edit. So when we found out all that happened Thursday morning, it was like, all right, it's crunch time.
We're in for a good one.
But ultimately, editing is usually 2 or 3 hours. Probably it's not too bad. It's just weird having the full conversation and then having to listen to that same conversation a second time.
Yeah.
And making sure you catch everything. Which hopefully everyone listening, hopefully I'm catching everything. There's not too many mistakes.
I'll toss in, just in case I haven't already said, the videos on the channel probably average somewhere between, I mean, it varies a lot, but I want to say between 5 to 10 hours of editing. The one I'm working on right now, I've been doing all day, so it's probably 6+ hours going into tomorrow, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, the video, from what I've seen Marquez do and from what little editing I've done, not for the channel, is much harder than this. It's very nice to have just audio. I guess the hardest thing to do is when it's an hour long of audio is realizing you drifted off as you were listening to it and then having to go back to the point you last remember listening to. So that makes up for probably a solid 20 minutes during every edit session.
Here's a question we might disagree on.
Okay.
Just because of, okay, I'll just read it. I know you guys aren't fans of touchscreens and laptops, but what's your opinions on touchscreens in cars versus buttons?
I mean, I know. As long as the important buttons are on the steering wheel, like the ones you need when you're driving, volume. I guess the only AC, climate control could be a little tougher, but like you've used it, you've gotten used to where everything is, right?
Yeah, for context, the Model S, I drive a car that has 0 buttons except for the 2 on the steering wheel and the hazard button. And you can control everything through the screen. I mean, I've memorized the location of like the temperature up, down. Basically, the reason physical buttons are so great in a car is because you want to keep your eyes on the road and just be able to feel over where you've memorized is a certain like radio dial or volume or climate control. But because those buttons, even though they've changed the UI and the design in Teslas, are in the same exact place, they're almost as consistent as a physical button. So I'm totally cool with touchscreen.
Yeah, my context, I drive a 2013 Subaru, so it is not a up to date in terms of touchscreens and stuff like that, but I'd say the main controls I use while I'm driving is volume up, down, track skip, and answer, hang up the phone. Everything's on the steering wheel. I don't think there will ever be touchscreen buttons on a steering wheel. I shouldn't even say that. There probably will be a concept car at CES next year when everyone's not going because CES next year is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that for a
Might
second?
as well.
CES, there's an article, I know maybe nobody asked about this, but there's an article about CES, as of right now, they're planning to hold it as usual. Like, I know the Olympics got moved and, like, the entire NBA season got canceled.
CES is
like,
more important than the Olympics.
Yeah, nobody will interrupt the CES schedule. Here's the thing. I know you have to because, like, okay, you don't want to lose all this money for the city and for the committee and all these things you've planned and all the things that go on every year to make CES happen. There are so many jobs. I get that, but this ain't it. The CES is already potentially one of the major reasons of the beginning of the COVID spread, and we don't want it to be the reason that it spreads again.
It spikes like crazy.
It's so early.
It is so dumb to even comment about it at this point, but to say it's going on is just. I mean, we've talked about CES. It's fun to go to, but we've always wondered if there's a reason to not go, and I think COVID's a great reason to not go.
Yeah. This is good. This will probably be the first year in my 8 years of not going to CES, and I think a couple of the YouTubers have already replied. Like I tweeted this, like this isn't the year to have it, and a couple of people on board like, look, if there's no vaccine and there's no like safety measures in place, like there's no way to go to CES this year. So maybe we'll just have like a little virtual. We'll have a little Zoom call instead.
They should replace attendance with a controllable robot and a 360 camera on it that you can purchase and check out the show floor.
I just pictured CES full of remote robots, just like remote presence robots rolling through all those halls, but like the same amount as people. So there's like thousands of them
bumping into each other, and
that would be chaos.
That's
and then yours falls over.
The thing about CES though is like it's not just a lot of people packed in a room, which it is. It is like being in front of the LG booth with those screens is. You are shoulder to shoulder with people. If you were getting through the crowd, you were touching almost every person that you walk past. But then on top of that, imagine how big headphones are, VR is, and mice and keyboards. Everything you were touching has been touched by 50,000 other people, and now you're putting that stuff on your face. You're putting it on your hands, which touch your face. Like we used hand sanitizer every time we met someone or went to a booth, and there's like, still people getting sick doing that from just the regular flu or the CES flu. It's such a terrible.
Unfamiliar. Yeah, it's like every year you go to CES, there's a very high chance you get sick in that petri dish, and I don't know. I think the bottom line is this is probably not actually going to happen in the way they say it will, but we'll keep an eye on that. We'll update you every podcast on whether or not CES is still happening. So far it's on, but yeah, CES Watch is on. Whoa, okay, this is a weird question. Okay, a wizard appears. This is already amazing.
Great start.
A wizard appears and teleports you to an island. I'm glad that needed a wizard. The island is a completely normal society, except they all use products and devices from just one company. Which company is it?
This feels like a riddle or like there's a punchline to it that I'm supposed to know.
Maybe I'll rephrase that as like, what would be like the best case company and like the worst case? Like Apple, you think of Apple, like then if everyone on this island is only using Apple products, and that means they all have phones, they all have computers, they all have iCloud.
Oh, so you're saying like you're thinking of which company has the most range of products that could make society continue to live its normal existence.
Yeah, this particular island of Apple will not have any transportation or any like cloud services or anything like that, but they'll all have personal computers.
I mean, well, what about LG? Are they literally building their own smart city
Oh,
or
that's
something
right,
like that. That's gotta
I
be
think
LG.
the obvious answer is like LG or Samsung.
Yeah,
GE.
they've got the widest amount of products that could. I kind of want to imagine an island where the society is based on the tech company. So if I imagine Apple, I'm imagining everyone wearing only white or black turtlenecks tucked in
Oh my god.
with
It's
circular
perfectly
glasses.
circular island.
Yeah, like everything is aesthetically pleasing. It reminds. Have you ever seen the movie Equilibrium?
No.
It's like this strange future, all about how like it got taken over and everybody doesn't have feelings anymore. They basically take these shots that take away feelings, so everything is just like monochrome and perfectly in order all over the place. So like I imagine that with hopefully still feelings, but we don't know if an Apple society would take that away from you or not. But
The Google Island is like super colorful. There's slides and playgrounds
everything's
everywhere,
updated super quickly and
but only for like a year. Yeah, I don't know. I think if I'm going with somebody to have a best case, Sony had a car at CES. Let's go. No, Samsung makes like washing.
I'm
dryers.
picking LG over Samsung because I don't want Bixby to be the overlord of the islands. At least
Oh,
LG
God.
still lets you use Google Assistant, Google One.
But you can't use it though.
Yeah,
You can't use
that's
it.
okay. I'll take pure LG anarchy over Samsung Bixby overlord.
I'll take the Samsung Island.
Okay.
The worst version of this island would be like the Essential Phone Island, where everyone's phones just bricks.
I kind of want to answer this one. How did you come out of quarantine, better or worse? I'm not out of it. It's probably.
Oh man. I hope it's better. I'm gonna come out of quarantine. Let's go with one thing that's better and one thing that's worse.
Okay.
When quarantine's over.
Okay.
Do you think you're better at cooking now that quarantine's been weeks and
Oh
months?
man, that just brings up a whole nother. This is gonna already go deeper than it should have. Cooking for a while, yes, I was cooking a ton. Favorite recipe I've made so far, I made braised short ribs, which I've never done, and they came out incredible. But because of all that cooking, I realized I was eating terribly for like 2 months. So now I'm trying to not eat like that, and I actually haven't eaten meat in almost 3 weeks, which for me is like absolutely insane. When my mom listens to this, she's probably not going to believe that I just said that. But I've been trying to find a lot of different recipes that don't involve meat. Buffalo cauliflower wings are really good. I made huevos rancheros the other day for dinner, which is very hearty. It's hard to find hearty stuff, I feel like.
I think it's making you better at cooking.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that. What about you? What are you getting better at during quarantine?
I would say I am better at. Oh god. I was gonna say just like the organization of like the compartmentalization of work.
Okay.
Where like this building is closed on weekends and I'm like physically unable to work on weekends. So like typically I just sort of merge everything together. I'm like either tweeting or working or something kind of all the time. And I think I've gotten better at separating those things
Yeah.
during quarantine.
I feel like people don't realize that there are times where like I'm in the middle of the weekend and I see a video post that I didn't even know was going to come out, and I'm like, Kaz, come on, dude, like just have a weekend off. Like, did you want help with that or anything? You just like decided to go in and make a video. So like, yeah, you work a lot. I'm sure it's nice to just force you to have weekends. Although now these weekends are way less fun because we can't do as many things. But
I think it's also made me better at 2K. I've played more 2K. I'm better at it. Can definitely confidently say that. But I'm definitely worse at a lot of things now.
yeah,
I'm worse. I have my haircut is worse. That's number one. I'll just say it. And then I am worse at Ultimate because there's like no way to play with a team. And so yeah, just all that.
So since I don't really play Ultimate as much anymore because I've been injured 1,000 times, I've been really into rock climbing lately though, which all the gyms are closed. I tried outdoor climbing for the first time, and then so I haven't gotten to see how terrible I am at climbing. Now that I haven't done it for like 3 months, but there's a full blown like 8 by 8 foot climbing wall in my backyard. Claire's not the happiest about it because it's a total eyesore. But I'm very excited to get some holds on there and to climb a little. So that's probably what I'm the worst at. I'm sure I'm terrible at it because I was never very good to start.
Perfect. All right. I think that's probably a good place to end it. I'm trying to get better at outroing podcasts. So thanks for listening to this episode of Waveform. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll keep an eye on CES Watch, see if that actually happens. But, WWDC will happen between now and then, and there'll be plenty of stuff for you guys to tweet at us. So get at us at WVFRM on Twitter, and we'll be in touch. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Waveform is brought to you with Studio 71, and our intro-outro music is created by Cameron Barlow.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Waveform Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Marquez Brownlee.
And I'm Andrew Manganelli.
And today we have a special guest, Michael Fisher, a.k.a. Mr. Mobile, one of my favorite tech YouTube channels and reviewers. He's been a friend for a while. Recently, I saw he added an ethics page to his site, and reading through it, I thought it was like the perfect communication of what to consider when watching your favorite reviewers on YouTube, whoever they are. So we'll talk about how review units work, where we stand on the ethics of working with companies. We do a Twitter Q&A, and there's even a horror story from our time in the industry. So it's all coming up. Really great conversation. Let's get into it. All right, special guest, Mr. Mobile, Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones, the man himself. Welcome to Waveform. Thanks for joining us.
Marquez, thank you for having me. It is wonderful to see your face again, even if it is just virtually for the moment.
It's great to hear your voice again, too. Just in the headphones.
Easily best voice that's been on our podcast so far.
That's no offense to the others. They're great guests, but I mean, come on.
I risked life and limb to walk to the sound bit, so thank you. Literally.
We appreciate it. I think this is a really interesting conversation to have, just because we've both been doing this, first of all, for a while.
Yeah.
And when I say doing this, I mean we've been reviewing tech in the form of online video, online content in some way. How long actually, do you know how many years you've been doing
I
video?
do, yeah. I started in 2011. So I was doing YouTube before that, but tech YouTube, that's when I started. It was the fall of 2011, right before I met you.
It's a lot of years, man.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's like it's coming up on a third of my life or something crazy like that. So it's a lot.
Because you started in 2010, right? We were about the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, beginning of 2009 actually. So it's like it's getting up there.
Yeah.
But just like when you take a step back from it all, trying to explain our job to like relatives, you've probably had like the Thanksgiving table talk, like how's work going, and you have to sort of explain what it is again.
Yes.
It's not a normal job to have, so I feel like going over that, what it is to be a tech reviewer, and on top of that to have relationships with companies that are putting out new products, what it is to exchange a product, to have an embargo, all of that sort of thing. It's good to have in one place.
We're going to be answering 14,000 YouTube comments at once, in other words.
It's great.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's what I'll do. Let's start off the top with like company X, product Y. How does it work? So you're company X, you're a tech company, and you're coming out with product Y. I guess step one for them is make the product, make the plan for the product.
Right.
Step two is plan the event to reveal the product. Be very secretive, of course, before you do all these things.
Absolutely.
And then I guess the next step is to come up with this sort of a media plan. And not every company does this, but to sort of give that product to people who review products, let them spend time with it so that when the event happens, there is a big reveal, and then at the same time as that big reveal, when people are considering buying the product, you have these tech reviewers who have given their informed opinions about what the product is and whether you should buy it or not.
Right. This is what is always asked about in all of our comment sections. Every time we're all posting the same review at once, you see us all post at whatever it is, 12:01 p.m., folks. It's because that is the absolute earliest time on the clock that the contract we have signed, the NDA embargo agreement we have signed, says we're allowed to talk about it. So that is like, everyone doesn't have to post at 12:01, but that's the earliest we can talk about it. And since we're all technically in competition with one another, even though I think most of us don't really see it that way, we all just want to be out there in the conversation at once, and nobody wants to be late. So I feel like that's the first point of confusion I see. A lot of people are like, "Do you guys? Did Company X say you have to?" Right? Yeah. And you're like, no, nobody said we had to. They just said we couldn't before this minute. So
Yeah. And I'll go over it. I have like a horror story relating to NDAs later, but we'll get into that later because there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot there. Also, by the way, are you a 1201 person or a 1202 person? There's actually a little bit of difference there, you know.
For a little bit of scheduling action, you mean? Like, do I say?
Yeah, you know. Sometimes there's also I don't trust YouTube scheduling. I always do it manually.
Terrifying. Yeah.
But when I come up on that time, I refresh my sub box at 12 o'clock and I see the videos come up, and then 12:01 happens, and then a couple more videos pop up, and then 12:02 I publish, and that video will be almost on time, but it goes right to the top of the sub box.
Oh.
So if someone logs in at right around that time and you publish right away, you're immediately buried.
Yes. Oh,
I
of
don't know
course.
if other people even think about this.
No, I think about it often, and I'm always jumping on. I'm too nervous to go first. Even if I've checked the calendar like the time 16 times, I'm too nervous. I have to wait on Twitter for. It's usually like Tech Radar. Like some big publication goes, and I'm like, okay, I'm going. But a publication I will not name, a large publication, was we're at BlackBerry event, I think it was, and we're sitting there in the seats ready to go. We've all got our laptops out, ready to hit the button, and one of our friends walks by from publication, Z, and she was like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're ready to hit publish," and she's like, "Oh, we went like 3 minutes ago. We didn't care. You guys should go."
Wow.
Bold move. Thanks.
That is
Thanks
like
for that.
interesting risk reward there. We're gonna break the contract, but for 3 extra
Yeah,
minutes.
for 3 minutes. That's
It confused the devil out of me. I tell you, I never understood, but they're doing fine. So apparently it worked out.
so. I think like unlike a lot of different genres in YouTube, since tech reviews are so focused on a product that's made by a company, and then that makes every one of our videos about a company that has nothing to do with us. Because of that, every single video we post, everything, there's always a chance for somebody to say, "This was paid for, did you get paid off for this?" Mostly just because there's a difference of opinions. People like to, if you don't have the same opinion as them, they like to tell you it's obviously because you were paid for it, not because people have different opinions. But
Right.
I think it's safe to say every video we've ever published has said, "How much did X pay you for this? You're a paid show." Something along those lines. It gets infuriating after a while. So we've seen you've taken an extra step to combat this. First of all, you do a disclaimer at the end of all your videos, which is fantastic. It explains to everybody that they didn't get a chance to edit the video at all, or this is the first time they're seeing it, which is great. But then on top of that, you created an ethics page on your website. That is a really, really long, in-depth version of just like why all your ethics, how you feel about journalism and being trustworthy and being honest to everybody. And I think it's fantastic. It's a great thing for people to read when they're starting to question tech YouTubers out. So I think we'd like to talk about ethics because I don't think a lot of YouTubers go out of their way to talk about it much, except for you. So we were wondering if we can kind of use your ethics page as kind of a rubric, go through it and talk about how we all feel about.
I would love that. Yeah, no, and I think just to give credit where it's due before I forget, the disclaimer I give at the end of my videos is always about copy approval. It is, as you say, it's like, hey, if this was a Motorola video, say, Motorola didn't get a chance to see this before you guys did. You guys are seeing it for the first time alongside Motorola. And I basically just stole that phrasing right from lawn.tv, a rather large YouTube channel that does a lot of tech videos, and I had for ages wrestled with a simple, succinct way of saying, hey, my opinion was not bought for this, and like saying, look, you guys are seeing it at the same time as the manufacturer was the quickest, easiest way that I'd ever seen that done, so I stole it. So thanks, lawn.tv, for allowing me to ethically appropriate your ethics statement, yeah.
I love it. It's super succinct, but it also, I think, on the flip side, will get the gears turning. If you think about it long enough, you're like, well, is this untrue about some other things?
Right.
Is it possible that there are videos that I'm watching where was approved by the company where they saw it first and got to edit it maybe before it came out. So I think that's where having like a public-facing statement like that clears it right up.
Yeah.
So here, I want to start at the top of it, where basically, we have all our code of ethics, and it sort of comes from this journalistic place. I think people like using the word journalistic or journalism in some way.
Sure.
Just, I'm curious for you, does it come from, like, you just personally wanted to get it out there? Does it come from wanting to have a public journalistic stand or something like that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, we talked about all the comments we always get, right? There's always a million questions and complaints in the comments, and a lot of them, for one reason or another, some of them valid, some less so, question your credibility. So first of all, I just wanted a place where I could stop having this debate all the time in the comments, because I don't know if you guys know, I don't have a life, so I just hang out in the comments and argue with people, or
I feel
talk
like
to people.
my first 24 hours is YouTube comments and Reddit comments
Yes.
after every video we post, and just like type something up, backspace, and so,
Yeah, right. No, settle down, cool down, don't say that, say something different. But yeah, so it was just a matter of convenience to be able to say, hey, I've wanted to get this out on paper for ages, let's make a page, let's do it. So part of it is that. And the other core part of it is, I like that you dropped the J-bomb, it's like, I don't like rolling out the journalism word too often, because I didn't go to J school, I don't claim to be a journalist, right?
Yeah.
But I always have sought to be the best pretend tech journalist I could be, because I didn't go into this business for the same reason some YouTubers do, which is to, get brand deals and get huge and get famous. I got into it to help people, initially to help people decide how to spend their money on cool stuff. There's a little less of that decision enablement now, but if I had to pick a side, I wanted to be a tech journalist. So why not have the same style ethics statement as so many of these big sites?
Yeah, and I think, I didn't go to journalism school either, but basically a lot of this, what we're doing is self-taught because it either hasn't been done before or we just haven't done it before at all. So we start to make videos and we realize that these conflicts arise. So okay, what do we do about that here? Let's have a statement of some kind to clear that up.
Right.
So you mentioned people get into it because sponsors are a big part of the game, almost a necessity to keep a smart business running. So if you think you can run a tech YouTube channel as your job and never have any sponsors, you'd be in a very, very small group that actually can pull that off.
Right. I'm
so
not a member of that group, by the way.
Yeah, it might not actually exist, but there are a few, and so when that comes up, you have to think about, all right, so how do we handle sponsors? How do we separate sponsored content from the rest of what we do, which is helping people figure out what to buy. So I guess the question that comes to mind right off the top is having sponsors in general. How do you, Mr. Mobile, decide what sponsors to say yes to and what sponsors not to say yes to? Because there's always an inbox of constant things rolling through, and you have to decide what to say yes and what to say no to. How do you do that?
Lots of pitches, right? Yeah. It's surprisingly difficult to explain, but it's rather easy for me to make these decisions. So I think when I wake up, say you've got more than me, but say I've got 40 emails in my inbox every morning from people pitching me on things to advertise for them. In a perfect world, I'd love to be able to say, look, the audience knows the difference between a sponsor spot and when I'm talking about, when I'm sharing my own opinion. So I can sponsor anything, right? I can take money for anything and just put it in front of people because people understand it's an ad. But I think there's a lot of confusion there, and B, no one wants to hawk a product that's going to either make people angry or potentially hurt people or just waste people's money, right? So in some ways you have to, and I don't know if you find this too, Marcus, but you have to apply a lens to a potential sponsor, much the same as you would to a product you're reviewing, but ultimately it's an ad read, so it's going to be positive anyway. So you don't want to hawk crap, but you're also not being, if you're being honest, because you have to be according to the law, but it's a weird, strange gray zone, right? So I just apply that to phone cases and accessories and things that I don't organically cover. That's the short answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to draw the line in the sand. I know when I was first starting, I was doing this through high school and through college, and it was not my job. And so my philosophy on sponsored things was, I don't really like watching that many sponsored things. I see some good ones once in a while, but it's not really what I enjoy watching. So I'm just gonna have a stance where I just don't do anything sponsored.
Nice.
And for those years when it wasn't my job and I was just going through school, that was the easiest line in the sand to draw. It was a no to everything. But now that it's a studio and a team and a whole process and it's a business now, it has to move. That line has moved. And so I think I've sort of drawn it in the same place as you, where it's like, if I wasn't going to be interested in this anyway, there's almost no way to push it over the line. And if it's something that, would be cool or something that I think is actually a nice product, like I did, I'll also use examples literally of companies I've worked with in the past. The Ridge wallet, I wasn't interested in them. They sent me the product. I was like, that's actually kind of nice. And so it was easy to say, okay, yeah, this is something I could definitely show and share with people, and it made perfect sense. So that's a good place to draw the line, I think.
Yeah, and it's a format choice for me too, because I think the 45-second integration or the 1 minute integration where you have a sponsored spot in the middle of your video, I think that's good, as close to perfect as you can get right now for me, because I just don't do full-length sponsored videos at all. So if I can take a break for a second to say, hey, here's a word from my sponsor, phone scan manufacturer D, say, you know what I mean? And it's like, this fits on this phone, it looks pretty good, you should buy one. I put them on mine, and that's the truth, and here you go. That's like the ideal situation for me. If I could have one of those on every video, I would, because it's helping people, it's helping me, it's a win-win.
Yeah, that might be the ideal. In the past, I've considered doing, I guess if we're calling it by name, pre-roll, mid-roll, end-roll. A pre-roll would be something literally before the video even starts, you're sharing a sponsored message and then jumping into the video. A mid-roll somewhere in the middle, an end-roll somewhere post the video. I've never done a pre-roll, and I don't think I could ever get myself to do a pre-roll because it just takes me out of like, I have a title, I have a thumbnail, I'm jumping in, I want to learn something, I want to see something, and then I'm just distracted. Like I'm annoyed by that anyway, when there's like a clickbait title and a 25-minute video and the thing I click for isn't the first thing.
Oh yeah.
That always has bothered me, so I'm sort of anti pre-roll as a personal choice. But then I get right into like, all right, if we can integrate this into the video somehow, that's better than just like chopping it right at the end.
I feel like we also spend way too much time doing some like dumb 20-second skit at the start of a video, and it would be such a bummer to like to work so hard on some like kind of funny skit in the beginning and then just go straight into an ad and
yeah,
so
that's the tricky part. Well, no, I mean we all as creatives, we've got these weird decisions to make that are very tough to quantify, but they are real things. Like people were wanting pre-roll stuff, and I said, "We'll drop your logo at the top of a video. It'll say sponsored by this company." This actually helps me out because then we get to disclose that early and open too. But I wouldn't want to talk for 30 seconds about an ad in the middle, the top of the video. No.
Yeah. So here's another question, and this comes from probably from the YouTube comments again, but I'll toss it in there anyway. Is there a such thing as a sponsored review? In Mr. Mobile World, the answer is, I'm guessing no.
No, not on my planet. If I could help it, no. To me, what do you? Can I turn it back on you first? Or
sure.
Yeah, because I want to hear your opinion on this.
No, yeah, I'm a hard no on sponsored reviews. So I will do sponsored showcases where you'll see that this is, I'm showcasing the product and you'll be able to see what it is. And if there are no cons being said, it's because this is a sponsored message. But that is definitely not a review, and it will never be categorized as such. It'll never be mixed in with those reviews. It is strictly not a review.
and you'll never have a suggestion on to buy the product, yes or no, on something like that. Like you're not giving your opinion that obviously if it's bought for it could cause people to buy things.
Right.
That's a hard line.
That is, we have a similar hard line. Yeah, I think the idea of a review that's been paid for, like when you come up and say like, "Hi, I'm Michael Fisher, and this is Product Y review, sponsored by Product Y's manufacturer." How does your brain not immediately short out at that moment? It drives me nuts. I think a lot of it has been we've had this dilution of the term review over the years. You can run a video that's like, "Hey, just to make sure you know, I've used this product for 2 minutes. I'm yelling at you from a trade show floor. I obviously barely know how it works, but this is a hands-on." First comment is always, "Great review."
Yeah, I see that too, and I'm like, what? Where did I say I was reviewing this?
Right.
This is
Right.
strange. Yeah, and I think so. Now that we have that hard line, I think then it gets into a little bit more nuance where basically you'll see, and I thought about this a lot because I'd actually never I never thought about it until I was accused of it, and I had to double back and think, wait, what are they thinking here? When you review a product, you know, this review of product X, it's not sponsored, you know, by company Y, but you know, there may be some behind the scenes incentive to say good things in order to, I don't know, keep your relationship with the company and keep getting pre-release devices so your coverage can be early in order to keep, I don't know. That's like the general like accusation is like,
Yeah.
you're not getting paid, but it feels like you're being swayed in a sort of biased way that could allow you to say you're not getting paid, but you're still being biased.
I think that's Reddit's favorite argument on almost every thread.
Here's my response to that is this could be very, very early in my YouTube career considered a tempting thought, where it was like the first stuff I was ever getting to review, I was like, whoa, I just got sent a keyboard to review. I better say something nice about this keyboard so that this keyboard company keeps sending more keyboards. Like that could be a thought when this is brand new to you, you've never done, and this is like a watershed moment.
Right.
But you know, year 9, 10, 11, whatever this is for us, it's like, you know, if I don't get a product to review, I'm going to buy it and it'll be later, and that's fine. But this isn't a defining feature of a review anymore that it was provided or that I bought it. It's just something that happens to be a part of the job at this point.
Yeah, this is more broadly, you know, this is debated in real media, forgive me, but like broader media all the time. You know, it's this debate about access journalism. I think the most often I see it talked about is when, you know, the White House, like if you're in the White House press pool and you annoy the president enough, like theoretically the White House can deny you access, and boy, that's going to be a big hit for your traffic. So how much do you want to annoy the president, whoever the president may be? These are issues that I think will not get solved anytime soon, because there is legit pressure there not to lose access, right? But to your point, Marquez, like, I also will go buy it later because I probably don't have time to cover stuff in the first wave most of the time anyway. But B, even in a situation where I've had to say, like, you know what, this isn't a great product, and I am nervous because I'm new, because it's 2011, and say, you know, company H just made a phone that's pretty crappy, and they flew me halfway across the world to see it for a week, and now I have to tell people they shouldn't buy it. Oh, well, I'm nervous, but I'll say it anyway. I have never personally been denied access as a result of being honest, and I've never known anyone who has been shut out, with I think one exception. There's one publication who just repeatedly just went after a manufacturer for probably like 2 years, and I think everybody has their breaking point, but it's like it's not. Everyone seems to think it happens all the time, and I am struggling to remember a single occasion of it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is like the easiest or best way, I guess, for me to share that isn't the case is to give all the examples of really glaringly negative reviews I've given products that were followed up by the company sending their next product like, check this out, it's better than the last one. You saw how much you hated the first one, so this is a better one.
Right.
You know, that's with, you could look at HTC phones, you could look at the Chromebook Pixel, This Ain't It Chief. I'm remembering titles at this point. This Ain't It Chief.
Microsoft, the Lumia 950 probably got bludgeoned by you like it did
Yeah.
me. I think my tagline on that was just nope.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and these things happen, but like at the end of the day, if you work at that company and you're hearing this truth about your product that's wrong, because I can understand if you know someone's giving you unfair criticism or is like got a faulty unit and is just hammering in that this is normal for the product, something like over the top where it's not really true. But if you work for this company and you're hearing this review and you're like, well, that is true, we did put a small battery in it. Oh, that is true, we did put a Celeron in a laptop. Oh, that is true, all these things that he's saying that make it not a great buy, they're all true. There would be no reason for that company to suddenly cut you off or change their relationship with you. In fact, it's sort of, if I was working there, it'd be sort of motivation to make the next one better. Send the early unit to that guy. He hated the first one,
Right.
send this new one to him. see how much better it
let's
is.
see if we can redeem ourselves here, assuming, again, like you say, you think the criticism fair. And that's usually how it goes.
So you mentioned something earlier, getting flown out to an event or to a company's headquarters to see something. This is something interesting to me because, again, I did not actually know until last year that was a thing until I got accused of it.
What? I saw this in the notes. What happened?
I've never actually been flown to a company's anything ever for any reason. Hotel, plane, whatever. And, someone was saying, like, yeah, Marquez, you have such a great relationship with these companies, but they fly you out to their events and put you in nice hotels. And I'm thinking, that's the number one thing I spend money on is flights and hotels for my team. What are you talking about?
Wow, you didn't know that it was common in press circles for that to happen?
Until last year, I thought everyone was paying for everything and didn't realize that was a thing. Now, not to say that it's wrong to get paid to fly out to things. You need to go to their headquarters to see a private product, then by all means go do it. But would this ever, for example, change Mr. Mobile's opinion of a product?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'll just come out and say I really admire that. I had no idea that was the case, A, and B, that you didn't know that it was kind of, over the past few years, it's sort of become standard. It's become accepted practice among the circles I travel in. And as I say in my ethics policy, that's one of those things. I'm like, listen, if a company is holding a launch event in another country and they're flying media to do it, we are not in a position as the Mr. Mobile division of Future PLC to be like, no, we're going to buy our own flights and we're going to put ourselves up because, look, we had a defined amount of time to make money. And travel and lodging, ever since I started in this business, has just been one of those things. Like, you can fly me to wherever and you can put me up wherever you want. It is not going to affect my editorial coverage at all. And I was nervous, dude. Coming out, I said that. Coming on the show, I was like, man, I need to go back. I need to make sure because you got to check in with yourself every so often. Am I being, am I being swayed by the breakfast caviar at Company M's event? It is, I don't even like caviar. But yeah, you go back and look at, say, my LGG7 review, I think, is the one I was watching right before I came on. I'm like, wow, yeah, that was a great trip to South Korea so we could tour the production lines, ask the engineers how they built the stuff. It was a lot of fun. At the end of the day, I said, this is a pretty boring phone, and most people should probably spend their money better elsewhere. But, there's nothing wrong with checking in every so often. I think everyone should keep themselves honest, but that is just not one of the lines we could have afforded to draw ourselves. Now, my question, are you going to change that, or are you going to keep it the way it is, your travel and expense policy?
Yeah, man, I think I'm honestly probably going to keep it the way it is just because it's so built into what we do. Yeah. It's like, and we also have like such a streamlined thing. I think I've had, now that I look back, like, and I realize that it's common, I look back and I'm like, oh yes, I do see that this company here did offer to, put us on these flights, and I said, no, it's fine, I already booked our flights, and they're going to get there, like, an hour before our interview, like things like, we have this process all sort of, nailed down, and it's something I've accepted as a top 3 expense for us, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to be clear, and I would want to move on, but just for the record, I'm not being glib about this. I think it is something people should ask about. People have a right to wonder whether your coverage is being impacted by things like a fancy hotel, or whether what class of travel you're being flown in, or whether you're being flown at all, or whether the company takes you on a trip to test out the phone's camera with a fun speedboat ride, which has happened. You know what I mean? Like, I think on the surface, it's pretty obvious that the PR companies who plan this.
Smart.
Oh yeah, they want very much the positive sentiment associated with that. They want, this was a fun trip. 2 people in our brains, this is a fun product, and we should recommend it. Or at least we should be guilted into not saying bad things about it. But as long as I think we as in the pseudo-journalists that we are, maintain an adequate filter and police ourselves adequately, and each other, then I think we're okay. And I think if anyone in my audience wants to say not watch my stuff anymore because of that, that's just like a breaking point for them, I think that's awesome. Because really, like, as an audience member, you have to make your own decisions. You You have to decide who you trust and why. And, you know, we're all gonna draw that line a little different.
Yeah, and like you say, the companies in charge of this they're smart, and they'll have, you know, I think now looking back at like some of the trips I've seen, it makes perfect sense. Not only are they trying to make their product look fun, but you know the trip's fun. You think everything's great, right? Everything's beautiful. I think it comes down to being in the shoes of the viewer, where you know you put yourself in the reviewer's shoes, and it seems very different. You know, if you're in our position and you've been doing this for a while, it's standard practice. I mean, you put yourself in the shoes of the reviewer or the viewer, sorry, and they go, well, if I was flown here and got to stay here and got the product early, I would have said nice things. That's what I think the pressure looks like.
Yes.
To someone who is either early or new to it, who's never done it. So I think keeping that perspective is important.
And that same pressure applies to, you know, products too. I think we'll probably talk about it too, but the other most often thing I see in the comments is, well, you guys are just getting free products, so you'll say anything. I'm like, guys, if a truck didn't show up at my door tomorrow with more work for me, I would be happy.
Amen.
It's the job.
You're lucky the truck's showing up to your door. Or didn't you just tweet about having to chase someone down?
Yeah, I sure did.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite. Like, we're sitting at 10 a.m. waiting for this by 10 a.m. delivery for the whole day's planned out around it.
Oh,
and sit and
Delivery exception.
Yeah.
Customer not available
It
or
is.
business closed. Yes.
I swear to you, it's a real thing. Well, they will drive right past your building. Like, yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to
Oh,
deliver.
yeah, oh, I
I promise.
I know it.
promise it's real. Actually, at the moment, FedEx. I'm gonna start ranting, but I've had this recently. You know, products wrapped up around like a single day of like you know scheduling around it. The FedEx near me. Well, not only now, you know, they stop at the door, they don't even try to deliver at this building anymore, so that's already pretty rough.
Terrific.
And this is for some reason FedEx Express specifically, so I'm getting really in the weeds. But they'll hold the package, and then I'll go there with my ID, and they'll say, well, this ID doesn't have the business address on it,
Oh,
it has your name. And the package is addressed to you, and this is your name, but we can't give this to you because it doesn't have the business address. Do you have like a piece of mail to you here? And of course, I just moved studios, so no, I have no mail to the studio yet. So there's about 5 products sitting at that FedEx that I haven't been able to pick up because I don't have any mail.
Do you ever just feel the impulse to be like, look, you have a computer right there, it's part of your cash register, right? Just put in my YouTube name, and then you can say, I'm me. Like,
I really want to. I mean, this is also like a FedEx with like 7 people in line waiting out the door, and I don't want to. Like, I have my business card there, and it says MKBHD, and the package label says MKBHD, but they're like, that's not your name. It's a whole thing.
There was one time we sort of pulled that off, and it was when Brandon forgot to register for CES, and we didn't find out till we were on the plane going to Las Vegas. So I walked in with him, talked to the guy, and I was like, if there's anywhere I can like pull up Marquez's name and show some business cards with enough, and sure enough, as we're doing it, some people from a company come over and they're like, you guys work for Marquez? And the guy was like, okay, yeah.
okay, you're in.
Passes,
Stroke of luck.
Lifts up the velvet rope, you know, stands aside. Yes, come right in, sir.
Super lucky. All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about those review devices and the horror story I mentioned earlier. Be right back. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Blue Box. Screens. I've used a lot of different types of screens in tech: 1080, 4K, OLED, LCD, 60 Hz, 90 Hz, 120 Hz. But you know what they all have in common? Is they all produce blue light, which has negative effects on our body. So during the day, this blue light damages our eyes and leads to digital eye strain. Symptoms of digital eye strain are blurred vision, headache, dry and watery eyes. This not only damages our health, but also experience and enjoyment of tech. And this tech, after dark, is still emitting the same damaging blue light during the day. However, after dark, it also tricks our brain into thinking it's still daytime and not to sleep yet. Blue Box was created to fix these problems and block out the blue light with high-quality lenses. So unlike other types of blue light glasses, Blue Blocks are evidence-backed and made under optics laboratory conditions in Australia. The founders were unhappy with the quality and lack of science behind leading blue light blocking glasses brands. So Blue Blocks was created to change this with high-quality lenses for daytime, nighttime, and for color therapy, a exactly in line with suggested peer-reviewed academic literature. I actually signed a pair of the Parker style because the thin frame can easily fit under my headphones without being pushed against the side of my head. So thanks to BlueBlocks, I can now continue to stare at my screen editing all day while improving my sleep quality at night, allowing me to wake up fresh and ready to continue another day of, well, staring at more screens all day. Get your energy back, sleep better, and block out the unhealthy effects of blue light with BlueBlocks. Get free shipping worldwide and 15% off by going to blueblocks.com/waveform or enter code waveform at checkout. That's BLUBLOX.com/waveform for 15% off, or just use the code waveform. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Smartphones today do their best to have as many features as possible, and sometimes those features can feel kind of unnecessary. Like we've discussed how phones are getting expensive, but with the additional features like motion gestures, heart rate monitors, or my personal favorite, the 2-megapixel macro camera, you're paying for gimmicks that you don't necessarily need or want. What if I told you carrier services are doing something similar? We live in 2020, so do we really still need expensive retail stores? Mint Mobile provides the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. So Mint Mobile saves on retail locations and overhead, and then passes those savings directly on to you. Mint Mobile makes it easy to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month, and every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text. With Mint Mobile, stop paying for unlimited data you'll never use. Choose between plans with 3, 8, or 12 gigs of 4G LTE data. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan to keep the same phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch your old wireless bill and start saving with Mint Mobile. And best of all, don't worry about changing out of your pajamas to shop at Mint, because it's all online. Now this is the future. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waveform. That's mintmobile.com/waveform. Cut your wireless bill down to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waveform. Okay, welcome back. So, Michael Fisher, I want to ask you about review devices. This might be the number one question I get from friends. You know how stuff like sometimes trickles out into the outside of tech friend world where they're like, that was a cool product, or that's a question I have about your job. I think the number one thing is, hey, what do you do with all that stuff? What is your go-to answer for, hey, what do you do with all that?
So we were just talking about how I'm in a sound booth a little while ago, and the top of this sound booth is covered in retail boxes. About half empty, half full, because half of them are still in the rotation being used, tested, compared. On the other side of this wall is a whole room full of them. I share a studio with 4 other great guys, and we all have the same YouTube problem. I'm just, I feel like we could just cover the floor in them and just basically fill the entire space until we could stoop over and couldn't, we'd have to hit our head on the ceiling. It stays around, is my answer. I think, are you in the same situation? Because there's a lot that goes into this. I want to make sure that we're in the same spot.
Yeah, there's a weird collection. You might walk into the studio and not be sure what's going on, but you'd be like, whoever works here has this weird box collecting habit, and this gadget collection habit. But yeah, I think it's a healthy mix, and the stuff that stays here is like stuff that's arrived, stuff that I've bought, and I'm just keeping it around for when the next generation comes out and I can compare them.
Yes.
And then suddenly it's 3 years in and I still have, oh my god, I can tell you the Note 7 story in a little bit, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff piling up around. But I think the question that comes from that is when a review device gets sent, for example, a new pair of headphones, a phone, whatever it is, do you keep it? Do you send it back? Is there a standard procedure with that?
I used to send them back every time because I didn't want to be accused of, making a softball review so I could keep a Note 5 or whatever, But as the product avalanche continued to grow, and
That's a great term for it.
and my time continued to shrink, I found that not only did I not want to spend that much time every week sending back stuff, even if it is just slapping a label on something, and you have to package it, you have to clear it, but also the manufacturers often, or the PR companies at least, I find don't even have a person for it, or if they do, they're not aggressive about it because they don't want to do that work either. They have to process this unit, turn it over, maybe send it back out, maybe not, probably not, especially now for coronavirus. So no one wants them back anyway, by and large. I don't really want them them, but they're useful, as you say, a year later. So they hang around. And I would love to find a way, frankly, I've been thinking about this and not doing anything about it. Maybe it's time to do something about it. I've been trying to find a way to like make them do good. Because if you contact the manufacturer and say, hey, remember this BlackBerry Z10 from 2013? You don't want it back. But I bet you somebody could use it. And what if we donated it? What if we did something to better the world with it? Rather than just a giveaway. So I'm trying to figure out what that is. Have you done anything like that? Because I know you do giveaways on occasion, but this is like a bulk action that I want to take, you know?
It's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I know I had all these great fancy plans for a new studio space and all the separate smaller rooms in it. Andrew doesn't know this, or maybe you do because you've been here, but one of the rooms is just a storage room. It's just becoming a storage room now. And that's just because, like you said, there's stuff we just keep around, I'm not necessarily using, but that ends up piling up. That avalanche imagery is so perfect. But yeah, I do think there are ways to do good with it, to give it to family and friends who can use things. I have done the occasional Twitter giveaway of something that I think could help someone out. But yeah, I think just generally, I remember I have a memory of Apple sent me a Mac Pro early for review. And with that, they sent a return label. And so when the Mac Pro finally came out and I ordered my own, I was like, all right, time to ship it back. And I emailed them and I said, you know how the Mac Pro has like that peely box where you like, as you peel it, it literally destroys the box?
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I don't have a box big enough to ship the Mac Pro back. How should I do this? And they're like, oh, right. Like they weren't expecting me to actually ship it back. And so they had to ship me these huge boxes to ship the review Mac Pro and displays back because I was so adamant about just getting them off my hands. Because I guess I'm a little bit like you where I was like, I don't want this weighing on me. Like the bigger products. A lot of the smaller ones, you know, they'll kind of sit around, but I, for whatever reason, just was like, I have mine, where do I send yours? And I did get the label on there and get it out the door. But yeah, I'm also still sort of, I know both of us saying this into a microphone and putting it online is like asking people to come, like, well, send them to me.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
But I don't have an answer necessarily for a solution to the problem. I just find it curious.
Yeah.
The difference.
And you know, it's funny how it gets to be just woven into the tapestry of the day-to-day life to the degree where you don't want it. Again, you know, it's in case nobody heard it the first time, you know, I don't want more products. Today, as I was leaving to come to the booth to record this podcast, I was like, what is this package? Somebody just sent me 5 sets of earbuds, of wireless earbuds. I didn't even know they had my address, this company. I'm like, I didn't want these guys. I don't even like the category.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't have a public like PO box or anything for just anyone to send anything to.
I do, but it's like somehow they got a hold of my real address, and I was like, oh, you guys are doing your homework. I like that, but also I will not cover this. I didn't ask for these.
I do have a suggestion actually for earbuds or headphones, which is funny because we've done this. My wife's a teacher, and they're working on Chromebooks and stuff so much now, and there are a lot of schools where kids can't afford headphones.
Really?
Stuff like that. So whenever we get extra earbuds or something that we're about to throw out, I just bring them all home and ship them off to her classroom so she has some backup pairs. I mean, kids might forget it, kids might just not be able to afford it, but they're doing so much work on computers now, it's almost a necessity.
And that's the kind of thing we're talking about. You see, that's great. Like that, I want to. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about like doing good. You know, it's just like it's not just doing giveaways so that I can have 5,000 more Instagram followers. It's like who actually needs this? Needs it. Here.
Yeah. Do you think the difference between some companies who literally will like pester you and ask for the device back versus companies that are a little more lax and just like if you want to send it back, whatever. Do you think that affects videos at all? With I guess with you, no. With me, I'd say no. But do you think that's something people consider?
In terms of like other creators saying like what tailoring their coverage so they get to keep devices.
Well, I'm thinking like I'm going back to the classic YouTube comment like, well, you're just saying that things because you get to keep the phone,
right,
or something like that.
You know that thread. You know that accusation is always thrown around there, but for us, no. And I maybe for some people, if they really want the thing, I mean, there have been times when I have petitioned hard to keep a review device. I mean, I'll say, I've said this publicly first time Samsung, when they were recalling the Galaxy Fold review devices after 30 days, was like, guys,
My bad.
no, after they fixed them, the fixed one.
Oh, okay.
So the version 2, they're calling them all back. I'm like, guys, let me hold on to this. I'm going to do continuing coverage on folding phones anyway. Let me do this. Let me just hold on to it because I want to see what it's like to own one for a long time. Eventually, they're like, no, you have to send. Everyone's sending them back. You have to send it back. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I bought them all. And I think that's been the tough thing because it wasn't an overnight, like there wasn't an instant decision on my part. They're very expensive, so it's the Z Flip, so they're all foldable phones. But I was like, wow, you've got manufacturers actively using the recall, I think, in my opinion, I don't have the facts for this, but as a safety measure, because they're very fragile phones, and when they break, they're going to get bad PR again, so they want them back. I'm like, well, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm going to buy them. And so I think I'd rather do that.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. Sometimes, a company that's typically a little more relaxed about sending out products is suddenly super uptight about a product.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's not a great sign.
Nope.
And if you sort of do the math on, we want it back early, sounds like it's not very durable.
Right.
I did buy a Galaxy Fold, and I still have mine working. But I mentioned the Galaxy Note 7 earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Moving studios, I've moved a ton of stuff down from the old space to the new space. And part of that was moving the phone drawer we have. I don't know if you've seen it, it's been in various videos, but I have a drawer with like a CD rack and like 60 phones in it or something weird.
Yeah, didn't you and I, Justine, go through it on one special video?
Yeah, you like put a phone behind your back and try to get it. There's that many phones in the box. In the drawer, I went through the drawer again today because I had all these boxes and I was trying to figure out how many years of phones I can finally clear out of this thing as I move.
Yeah.
And I'm looking through them and there are 2 phones in this drawer that are swollen.
Oh no.
Their batteries have swollen up and have started to puff out the back. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. The 2 phones were the Galaxy Note 7 and the Galaxy Note 7 Fan Edition.
Wow, the Fan Edition?
The only 2 phones out of like 70 phones in this drawer. Those were the 2 phones whose batteries had swollen up, and I was like, wow, that is. If that doesn't say a certain device was doomed from the start, I don't know what does.
I feel like you just dodged a massive bullet there because you have a thermal runaway of a battery in a drawer full of other batteries.
Yeah, not great.
Wow.
So that's the one you have to carefully, properly dispose of, and I was a little bummed about that because it was kind of fun to have one. Like, oh, I have a Note 7.
Right.
Like that's
I just lost it when he found that at the office the one day in his video.
Yeah.
Oh God! Wow! I'm really glad it worked out. And I would have kind of had the handshakes after something like that. Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad I got rid of it. Here's another one. We talked about embargoes earlier, and you have as one of your points on your ethics page that a company cannot pay for scheduled or preferential scheduling.
Yeah.
Where you have your own lineup, I'm sure, of videos and projects you're working on.
Yep.
A company might come in and say, hey, Mr. Mobile, we want you to review this, but we got to get it in by the end of May, so let's expedite this. I'm assuming you just have a line in the sand. That's a no for any sort of preferential treatment?
It is. And it is because I think part of the responsibility of delivering content in the way that I do, I'm not talking about any other YouTubers, it's just my channel, is that people, when they see me post a video, it's because either it's really newsworthy in terms of tech, or it's something I'm really interested in covering for some reason. So if any company can just come in and say, well, we're going to back up the money truck so that you can talk about this phone that you normally wouldn't talk about, or this watch that you wouldn't normally talk about, it's like, for me, right now, don't want to do that. That said, I wouldn't rule it out. I think it's really important to be aware of what our own limitations are. And if we're drawing hard lines in the sand, this is a line that I draw with like a stick, firmly but politely. You know what I mean? It's not a line I wouldn't ever change. What's your stance?
Yeah, it almost, I think, whether it's intentional or not, I think kind of happens already. Now, it's not, I don't think it's the sponsor bit. I think it's when a company gives you access and they give you an embargo, suddenly that product has like slotted its way on my testing schedule.
Right.
Where like, if I know I have a week before the embargo and then I have this other product that I was kind of casually testing but didn't have a date for, well, that just got bumped by the product that has an embargo. So it's not like they're paying to schedule something early,
Right.
but they sort of, whether they intend to or not, have altered the production schedule here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, to say there's a line in the sand for me, I don't know that I would say no either. If I was doing something sponsored, actually no, that's something I have done, where they have a budget for a certain month, and they're like, are you willing to be a part of this campaign? And I'm like, sure. Now that's created a deadline for that. So I'm not against, having a sponsored bit in an earlier video because that's part of their, monthly budget for a campaign or something like that. But like you, I haven't done like a full sponsored video, so that's, I guess, a little different.
Yeah, and I try to avoid that too, but in terms of the sponsored angle on the conversation, that has happened with me too, right? Where it's just like, wow, this sponsor wants an integration for, say, I don't want to say VPN, but it's the first thing that came to mind, so I'm going to go with it, but let's not talk about that too long. And they're like, but this has to go live in the next 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, that's going to mess up my entire schedule, but because, again, balancing the business with the editorial, okay, I can put this sponsor spot on a video and bump it up in the schedule. That does happen, sure. But I haven't had a situation where it's like, I was going to cover manufacturer L, and I was going to do that next month, but they want to pay to be featured earlier. I just don't do that. So.
I feel like
Have you ever seen?
our schedule is so much, we don't plan out. I feel like every time we talk to other YouTubers, they have so much stuff planned out, and we're just so much the opposite of that. So
Tell you what, I'm in the same boat with you guys. Don't.
yeah, so like it lets sometimes, but like giving someone 2 weeks to put a sponsor in, and people reach out with that all the time. We want this in X amount of time. All right, well you just lost the pitch already because that's just not gonna happen.
Sorry.
I don't see how you could think that could be done that quickly. I think it goes down to, Marquez Mix says this all the time, that he thinks a lot of people see how long a YouTube video is and thinks that's how long we took to make it. This 10-minute video took 10 minutes to make.
Yeah.
It just seems like people have no clue sometimes.
It's true, and it's when you make them well, they look effortless. I mean, certainly you guys are the experts at that. They certainly look like they just came together because you willed it. But those of us who do it know how hard the work is.
A magician, I had a quote, and I think I made it up, but maybe I didn't. A magician's greatest trick is making it look effortless. But it's also a creative's greatest trick too. But anyway, here's another. So we were talking about embargoes before, and I mentioned I had a horror story.
Yeah.
I would just like to say that companies who, they work with creators and they work with whatever the whole influencers, whatever the industry you want to call it, should consider the perspective of those that they are working with. And I say this because there was the infamous event with Dyson, where I had Dyson in my inbox, where they reached out and they were like, we've got this great campaign and we're working on a sponsored video about this vacuum. Would you like to be a part of it? And I at the time was like, well, it's a cool vacuum. I actually bought the vacuum. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But they were like, would you make a sponsored video? I was like, I'm not going to make an entire sponsored video about a vacuum, so I didn't. And then, the 2 weeks goes by, I kind of forget about it. And then in my sub box, I see one sponsored video about a Dyson vacuum. And I won't even say any creators' names, but you kind of get the picture where like you see this video and you look back and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I said no, they moved on, makes perfect sense. Then an hour later, I see another video in my sub box, another creator I know, another video about sponsored vacuum, and then an hour later another one. And I'm like, wait a second, and so I get a message from another creator involved, and they're like, listen, these videos are all on separate embargoes, and this company knowingly, intentionally set a different embargo time. And this is probably, I'll never work with Dyson by saying all this, but they set a different embargo time for each creator, and whether this is intentional or not, that sort of like removes you from the, like, if you don't tell, first of all, the creator that there are other creators in this campaign, that's number one red flag. You should definitely tell when there are others in this campaign. But then number two, to sort of shuffle them out like that, so you create a wave where you can't escape the wave and you're sort of stuck in it.
Yeah.
To me, that left a bad taste in my mouth, where it's like they should have definitely thought about, you know, a creator's flexibility on scheduling and being in a campaign with other creators. Do you have any horror stories with working with unnamed brands that you'd like to share? Because I feel like I throw it under the bus and, you know,
Sure.
sorry Dyson, but you should have thought a little bit better about that. But that's one that came to mind. Sort of not considering the perspective of the creator when it comes to embargoes and others in the campaign.
Yeah, I think you know, there's not a particular manufacturer that is guilty of this. I find when I'm dealing with sponsored matters, and usually that takes the form of some company wants to pay us to do a 60-second spot in the middle of a video, and it's for, you know, whatever, phone case, battery pack. It's not the manufacturers that often cause the trouble for me. It is this sort of nascent remora phenomenon of the agency. This band of professionals who gets between you and the manufacturer ostensibly to manage that relationship. And you know what? I know some great people at a lot of agencies, and I like working with them. This goes for PR too. There's one particular agency where when you read their contract expressly forbids not only saying bad things about whatever client you're working with through them. So if it's a battery case manufacturer, you can't say anything bad about them on Twitter. But the agency itself, you can't speak badly about, nor can you retweet, reply to, or even like on Twitter negative sentiments about the agency.
Wow. Whoa.
That's gotta be the biggest red flag
I've
ever heard in my life.
Absolutely was.
You know how when there's like a sign on the side of a dirty river that says "Do not swim"?
Yes.
Like who swam
Right.
and what happened?
Exactly.
That's what that sounds like. Wow.
It's what put me on edge the first time we did business with them, and it turns out they were a nightmare. We tried again; they were a nightmare. You know, it's kind of the same category as the companies that try to get between you and your followers, or you and your subscribers, you and your viewers, and say, "Hey, great news! You can charge your viewers to, you know, for time alone with you, and we're going to get right in the middle of that and take a fee off the top." I'm like, cool, understand, thank you for that pitch. I'm just going to talk to them in the comments for free, and you can go after yourself. So I don't like interstitial agencies. When they abuse that position. So those are the ones I have the nightmare stories about.
Yeah, you know, there's always I almost forgot that whole dichotomy where there are some companies that you work with directly and some where you work with an agency that is communicating with the company. And that's, I don't even know if there's like a theme to like which companies tend to have agencies versus which don't. I don't really have a problem with working with an agency when it comes to like a lot of the stuff I typically work with companies for. That's fine. It's just
Usually
that's part of what's going on.
Yeah, it's usually fine, and sometimes you can tell why they hired an agency because you'll get to know the agency, you have a good relationship, and then you talk to somebody from the company itself, and you're like, oh, you're very angry about the one bad thing we said 6 years ago about a product. Okay, this is why you have an agency. So
Yeah. Oh man, I remember I worked with a company that that commented on a video I did not make.
What?
I won't say who, obviously, but this company, I walk into a briefing of the second version of a phone, and the guy commented on how they fixed that thing I hated from the first version, and I immediately knew whose video they were talking about, and it was not me.
Wow.
It was someone who looked kind of like me. And so I thought that was hilarious. You know, at least they tried.
Yeah.
Kinda. I guess I should be happy they at least tried, but
Right.
I thought that was funny. I have like sort of the opposite of a horror story when it comes to working with brands.
Ooh.
And this is the day I discovered a secret YouTube feature. Maybe it's not secret. It's probably secret. But this is the day I discovered that you could, you know, you've ever seen those articles about how there's like a glitch in an Apple commercial on YouTube?
No.
And then the next day, it's just gone from the video. And you're like, there's no way Apple can just like there's no way they can fix that, right?
Because we can.
Right. So, and this happened also maybe I think with a Pixel commercial, there was some sort of like a weird poorly rendered Google Pixel in an ad,
Okay.
and they embedded it in all their articles, and they're like, check out timestamp 34 seconds of this video on Google's official YouTube channel. And then like 2 days later, it was like not in the video anymore. I was like, wow, this is crazy, but maybe Google, if anyone, they own YouTube, maybe they can replace videos, right? So I'm working with a company on an integration, and you know about the typical back and forth of like, okay, we've put together this little sponsored bit. I'm working on the rest of the video, but here I'll send it to you for green light.
Yes.
So if you want to approve it, I can just insert it whenever I need to. I do the back and forth. I send them the little 45-second cut. They have this one edit they'd like to make. Okay, classic. I expected that. I go back. I edit it. I send it to them again. One more edit, please. Okay, you know what? Just tell me everything you'd like to change, and I'll do all of the things, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, much more efficient. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do that. So they give me this list. I do the list. Send it back. They're like, all right, this is great. Green light. Whenever you like to go live, you're good to go. I said, okay, great. So I finish the rest of the video. That video goes live. I kid you not, and this was an embargoed video too, so it goes live in the morning. It's like right on time, 9:01 a.m., whatever it is. And like 5 minutes after, I get an email like, hey, one more thing. Oh, actually, can you also, and I'm like, okay,
Guys.
now this is my line in the sand. Like I gave you the chance. I gave you multiple chances. We went over this. You gave the green light. Here's your email giving me the green light. So this is a hard no. I am not changing anything about this video. It is live. We're done. And it's a good, like, why would you? And it was one of those dumb little things. Like, this is a great little sponsored bit. You wanna do this one little change here? Like, oh,
No.
like, come on, okay, just let it go. And they're like, okay, we're willing to try to give this a shot. We will engage with Google and YouTube to do a video replace.
Wow.
And at this point, I didn't even want to do the change anymore. I was so curious. I was like, wait, what? A video replace? This is a thing? And so, sure enough, I go, okay, fine, you know what? I'll do it. And in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I want to see what video replace is like. And so they're like, yeah, okay, so you make the change, you re-render it, and just upload it to private and give us the link. So I do that. I re-render it, I upload the video to private, I give them the link, and they're like, we'll take care of it. And it did take about a day and a half, but by day 2, that public-facing video was now the private video, and the private video is now the public video, and they had done that swap.
Like no change in view count, like all the.
No change in, everything is the same. The title, the views, the comments, everyone is still, and people who had commented, which is funny because I know you probably can't abuse this feature by like changing the whole video, but I was just thinking like if someone had commented about some part of the ad that was now different,
Yeah.
their comment wouldn't make sense anymore.
Of course.
But that was the day I learned that, by working with this advertiser who's really, really picky about this one little spot, I learned about YouTube's definitely real, definitely not meant to be abused, definitely very select video replace feature.
That's fascinating. And also terrifying because I'm really glad you told all of us that because I would have been driven insane by it. Had I ever seen it and been unable to explain it, I just would have hit everything. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have horror stories. Yes, working with companies is never really as straightforward as you might think. There's always this little thing, I want to change, this little thing I want to adjust. But you do get some fun things out of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up earlier with regard to sending stuff in for edits. Because, people listen to the disclaimer at the end of my videos, and that's all about the manufacturer, that's about the editorial coverage in the video. If there's a 45-second, D-brand spot on there or whatever, I have definitely come to an agreement with D-brand or whoever about, like, you guys happy with this? Is it cool? Because that's the sponsored spot. And I think when we wrap it up later, I can kind of put a neat little bow on that. But, yeah, there's a distinction there. And also, you're right. Sometimes there are really great stories that come from working with agencies and in-house PR people as well. And, I have some good friends at agencies, and I hope they don't think I despise all of them, because I don't. I've made some great friends on that side.
I feel feel like there's definitely events we know we're going to and we're like, okay, this is going to be set up really well because that PR agency is fantastic. And then there are other events we're going to go to and be like, get ready for some terrible lighting, way too crowded, not enough units, not enough time. Like,
I will say that it's nice when they're helpful, and that is more often than not, because most of these companies, manufacturers or agencies, they want feedback after these things, and we'll tell them, look, you can't put me in a dark room with a single spotlight over a table with 3 devices and have it be a great time. This is
so
terrible for us.
And
You know?
that is so real. Say it again for the people in the back.
Yeah.
I love when they get better over time because there have been some, even like some recent ones come to mind where like they started off like not so great, and then they would literally ask for feedback like, look, we're trying to work with creators more now. We've done this little shift where we have video people and journalists. So what can we do to better accommodate you guys? And they'll actually listen.
Yeah.
And then try to have better lights and more windows and more space and more units, and that's always great to see when they're actually trying. So kudos to
I
those
think we
people.
always say sky panel when they ask that question. What could be better? A sky panel, please. And one has followed that and has had one at every event since then. It's been
Yeah,
fantastic.
amazingly. Amazing.
Just give me natural light on a lot of devices, I'm happy.
Same. Let's take one more quick break, and we'll come back and we'll answer some Twitter questions. We'll go through the tweets. This episode of Voidform is brought to you by our crowd. Right now, everyone's asking the same question: when are we going to have a vaccine? It's the most important problem we face. Solving it means saving lives around the world and getting the global economy back on track. Right now, investors have a unique opportunity to not only invest early in cutting-edge coronavirus vaccine innovations, but to help move the world forward. How? By investing in MigVax with our crowd. MigVax has shared that they are uniquely positioned to develop a COVID-19 vaccine because they spent the last 4 years developing similar and successful avian vaccines. So when coronavirus surfaced, MigVax quickly pivoted to developing a COVID-19 vaccine. They are now in preclinical trials and working quickly to produce an effective vaccine. And MigVax is developing more than just a single vaccine. It's designed to be a vaccine platform that allows fast adaptation to new virus strains in the future. So our crowd is investing in the important vaccine work MigVax is doing and has made it so accredited investors can join them and invest too. I'm always looking for ways to invest my money that help the world and have positive effects on the future. Our crowd is a great way to find those types of companies so you can feel good about what you're investing your hard-earned money in. Our crowdsourced investing platform gives accredited investors access to early-stage funding rounds and some of the most promising companies around the world. They help you invest before the companies go public, like they have with Beyond Meat. So, now you can set up your Crowd account for free and invest in pre-IPO companies alongside professional venture capitalists. Learn more about investing in MigVax at info.ourcrowd.com/wave. Setting up your account is free, so get started right now at info.ourcrowd.com/wave. That's info.ourcrowd.com/wave. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by LegalZoom. Health and safety is on the top of everyone's minds right now. No matter what happens, you want to feel sure your loved ones are protected. That's why LegalZoom continues to provide a reliable way for everyone to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. I know plenty of people who have wanted to start a business but have no clue where to actually start things. LegalZoom was created exactly for this. LegalZoom has all the information and expertise you could possibly need when starting a business, from LPs to LLCs. LegalZoom is there to help you move forward without a worry. And when it comes to uncertain times like these, LegalZoom can also help you with some family-oriented issues like estate planning. It starts with finding the answers to your questions. Do you need a last will and testament or a living trust? What about an advanced healthcare directive? And what's a power of attorney? Luckily, you don't have to figure everything out on your own. LegalZoom's online resources make it easy to get started, and if you need to speak to an attorney, their independent attorney network is there to guide and advise you. LegalZoom isn't a law firm, so you won't have to worry about expensive billable hours adding up. Take an important step for your family today. Go to LegalZoom.com and get started on a last will, living trust, and more. Just make sure to enter code Brownlee at checkout for special savings. So that's LegalZoom.com, LegalZoom.com, code Brownlee. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Alright, welcome back. We're going to go through some tweets. So as you guys know, we've done the Q&A stuff before. We tweet at WVFRN. You guys let us know what you want to know. We say we have Mr. Michael Fisher on the show, and we're talking the ethics of reviewing text. So hopefully you guys have some good questions. I'm going to just scroll down and look through. You guys can all scroll down and look through and we'll talk about it.
I have one that I think is pretty well goes through over a couple things we've talked about. Do you ever find that it's more difficult to make someone believe you're an ethical reviewer than it is to actually be an ethical reviewer?
It's such a great question. It's perfectly phrased.
Wow. If I was spending the amount of energy that I do on being an here's what I'll say. I'm obviously trying to do the best I can ethically, and I'm sure that's a pretty common sentiment. But there is no way I will be able to convince everyone about the ethics. Maybe I should have my own ethics page, but there's no way I can actually go through and talk to people and convince them that my opinions are real and that I disagree with you because I really do disagree with you, not because someone paid me to. I can't really focus on that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think just generally it's much harder, as you say, to get people to believe that you're living ethically. And look, trust in all forms of media is at an all-time low. If we devoted as much time as it would take to convince a significant portion of the population that we're behaving ethically, we wouldn't be able to do the actual job. So yeah, it's much harder. It's much easier to be ethical than it is to convince people that you're being ethical.
I feel like even with that, if you find yourself in the comments trying to explain to someone why, that wasn't paid for, then just as quickly they can be like, oh, you seem really defensive about that now.
Yeah.
Why are you getting so defensive?
He thinks the lady doth protest too much. Yes. And also, ethics to a degree they're subjective, and I think it's important that everyone needs to. Again, that's why I wrote that big long thing. There are different lines for everyone, and I think as long as there's no obfuscation going on, that's fine. You just have to know what the line is of the person whose media is your consumer. Unfortunately, that's very difficult these days. What's crazy is that what I like this is that this tweet scouring has proven that we've had a pretty good conversation. I feel like a lot of these we've answered,
Definitely.
It's nice when you see that. You're like, all right, we covered what we should have.
Yeah. So there is one, and we touched on this earlier, but I think maybe there's something left to it. Do you ever, what is the line in the sand between a company providing accommodations for a fair review, such as paying for airfare and hotel at an event, and outright trying to buy a positive review? And I think the line is pretty clear because there are creators out there who have a very different kind of channel that is typically not characterized as a review channel, where, hey, look, stuff that appears on this channel may be sponsored and may not be, but I'm not helping people reach a buying decision. And so a company pays me X amount of money to showcase something, and here it is. That's the very easily defined, I think, line in the, not line in the sand, but the border between those things.
Yeah, and I also think it's another little tweak to that is like at least for me, there will never be content that is an ad that is disguised as not an ad. I think that's what a lot of people think they're seeing when they see something that they're confused about. Is this opinion bought or not? Maybe they're trying to hide it. It's like if it's disclosed as such legally, #ad, all the appropriate disclosures, then it is, and if it's not, then it isn't. Simple as that.
I will say this, and I don't have an answer to this. I would like your input into this. Do you ever run an ad, as I did the other day, for a streaming stick that you plug into your TV? And have you ever had it's clearly disclosed, it's an ad, it says #ad, it says they sent me this, it's sponsored, it's paid for, and then have your comments full of questions that you would typically see on a review? Because I don't know what to do with that. I keep saying, look, I'll answer you honestly, but you're asking questions on an ad, and I don't know.
Yeah, so how are people supposed to take this totally seriously because it's a paid for video in the first place?
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I would say my go-to answer, and I don't think this has ever happened to me, but I would say my responses are not part of the ad. So I will be honest in my responses, but I don't think that's going to be as clear to people listening. Right. So I think when you see a response to an ad, you're just going to assume all the other good stuff is also paid for. Would I even say something bad about the thing in response? I don't even know. That's an interesting.
Could that turn into a company then saying you have to make X video and part of your contract is answer 10 questions in the comments, and then they start wanting to pay for that, so then you have to hashtag ad every comment you make after that?
You absolutely would have to,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy. I can't imagine
Yeah.
seeing a creator in the comment section with hashtag ad at the end of every response
Oh my
for those
God.
videos.
Even
Like,
though
it wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, even though, effectively that is what's happening, I think it's different. We should point out that the FTC requirements are US only, so there are plenty of countries out there where those requirements are not as strict, and suddenly you're watching a piece of content and you're like, oh, I know for a fact that this is sponsored because I know this person, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to say hashtag anything. It's okay, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a whole other rant about the FTC and how enforceable that stuff is. Because we all adhere to obviously the guidelines as best we can, but I think I tweeted maybe 2 months ago or something like that about like an LG phone appeared in an M&M video.
Oh
And
yeah.
of course that's paid for. Like
Yes.
they don't just organically flash the logo on the screen for a solid second and a half of a record. Like that's obviously a paid for bit, but there is never any disclosure. It's not a review. Is it an ad? Do they need the hashtag? Like that's a whole nother
No,
subject.
but that is it. That's exactly the delineator, because you're watching a music video. You innately know, or most people should innately know, that when they see a T-Mobile Sidekick 2 in a 2005 era music video, well, that's product placement, that's an ad, because the music video is so you can enjoy Jay-Z's latest. It's not so that you can decide whether you want to buy the Sidekick 2, right? So
Yeah.
that's the real danger, and I hate it when people intentionally blur that line, because it's just so icky, and it's so dangerous to people who are trying to make a decision.
I have another one up here. Another tweet says, "Should you criticize the flaws of a new invention or emphasize the uniqueness of it?"
Ooh.
I think for me that's super clear.
For me
I
too,
think-
I don't have the same answer.
I mean, I just think if I'm reviewing something, I have an opinion about it, and if it works well, it's going to get praised, and if it doesn't work well, or if it detracts from the experience, it's going to get shot down. I'm going to say it's bad. Now, here's the one caveat: when there is such a form factor breaking or new concept, I will nitpick less. And I know I've done that with Galaxy Fold, for example.
Yes.
Where okay, it's not high refresh rate. Okay, it's not super thin. The bezels aren't what I would want. But look, the thing folds in half, and that's what I'm focusing on. Now, is that me brushing away the flaws and just focusing on the one cool thing? I don't know. I think if I'm clear that I'm focusing on the one cool thing and I'm not nitpicking, then you get the idea. But I don't know. I think as any detail pops up, I will probably give my take on it as a positive or a negative.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible and even desirable to do both things. Your Galaxy Fold example is spot on, man. It's just been in my head for ages. Every time I use the Galaxy Fold in public, people ask me about it, and I am always like, listen, this is the most excited I've been about a phone in a long time. You can do a lot of great things with it. It's amazing, and I love it. Should you buy it? Absolutely not. No. You should not spend as much amount of money on it. And you can have both things in your head at the same time, and you can express both things at the same time, and it can be true. And I think as long as you're hewing to that, as long as you're saying true things, then conflicting facts can coexist, right?
Yeah, and I've also had that conflict before. Even if it's a personal thing where it's this is a great product, it's just not for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's not for a certain type of person. And I'm that type of person,
Yeah.
That can exist too. So I think knowing who you're talking to and being able to say this is really exciting and interesting, but I don't think I'd tell you to go spend $2,000 on it. That's important to be able to say.
I do have one here that might dovetail with what we were just talking about. Most tech videos, it says, generally give off a positive review of the product no matter what it is. Is tech overall that good, or are there some potentially behind-the-scenes business at play? I know exactly how I want to answer this one. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I have a two-part answer to that. One, is generally a lot of the things that we choose to cover are the things that we find interesting or cool or worth sharing in some way. So generally, a lot of it is going to be pretty positive because, hey, look at this interesting, cool new thing. I'm making a whole video about it. I use it for a while. I'm sharing it. Yeah, I have positive things to say. But number two, there are some pretty glaringly negative reviews that I've given that we've both, we've gone through products where it's like, there isn't much at all good to say about this product. And you watch it and you're like, there's no way anyone buys the product after watching this. Like, that's happened a couple times. So I'd say to the person, asking that, check twice. There are some pretty negative reviews as well. And that usually comes from like a sort of a PSA perspective. Like, this is so bad,
Right.
that I just got to tell you about how bad it is and how you shouldn't buy it.
Right. Yep, that was basically the answer I was going to give. Yeah, it's an inherent bias towards things that are good because, as you say, our selection criteria are, well, this is interesting and I want to cover it, so there's an innate positive jump off. But
I feel like I see a lot of people also say, like, not so much that reviewers aren't negative, but that they're too easy on negatives. And part of me thinks that kind of just comes from, like, personality in general. Like, people are popular on YouTube because their personality is great, they're a pleasure to watch. So more often than not, these larger YouTubers or whoever you're watching they're bubbly, they have a great personality, they're upbeat, they're fun to watch. So maybe the way they describe something negative feels a little less glaring than some keyboard warrior on Reddit making 8 paragraphs about why no one should ever buy this. So it might come off as like maybe they're taking it a little easy on them, but I think it's just you're seeing fun personalities out there, and sometimes they don't freak out about things. They just know it's not that great, and they explain it calmly.
yeah, and I think to piggyback on that point, I think you would see a greater spectrum of good and bad reviews if we all didn't take so long to make a YouTube video. Making a YouTube video is a lot easier. I'm not saying writing reviews is easy. I've done it, and it can be really hard, but it doesn't take as much time to write a 1,000-word review as it does to do the kind of videos we make. So if you could just crank out, say, 50 more reviews a year, you'd see a much wider swath of good and bad. It's just, you have that inherent selection bias of, as you said, hey, this is cool, I want to check it out. Hey, it turns out it is cool, because what do you know, I know something.
And I'll add one more thing to that. A lot of times, the criticism of a certain aspect of a product will either be just straight up bad, like a bad choice they made, but sometimes there's a sympathetic aspect of it too. Like, I know they worked really hard on this, and I know how hard it would have been to do this different thing. Like, I want to nitpick and say, dude, just put a better camera in here. Like, I just want to say, put the best camera in here. But like, that's actually really hard. So if I'm going through and nitpicking a camera and I'm like, it's fine. It's not the best camera, but it works, and you see how it compares to others. I could be much harsher on it. Like, this camera is trash. I would never use this phone as my main phone because the camera is so bad. But there's 99 other phones I wouldn't use as my main camera too.
Right.
So, I have to have a little bit of consideration for how difficult it would be to change the things I'm mad about.
And that's again why viewers, I think, should carefully choose, it's not the right word, but decide who they're following. I want people to understand that, look, I don't know about you, I won't speak for you, but I have innate biases, we all do. I think I try to remain as objective as possible, but if the phone doesn't have a design that I feel like a lot of thought has gone into, I'm not going to like it, I'm not going to carry it, but we're going to talk about that in the video. People should follow me if they are, I think, are of a similar mindset or get something out of that otherwise. If you're following somebody who talks about cameras for 15 minutes of an 18-minute video and you don't care about cameras, consider a different reviewer. There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
We need someone to make a website that helps you calibrate to a YouTuber that fits your. That sounds very hard, but yeah, like, you need to calibrate to somebody, so you can do that in positives and negatives. You can be like, I usually dislike this things. Maybe Marquez doesn't like everything I like, but he really dislikes the things I dislike. So
Right.
Get views from different people, calibrate yourself to all of them, and then use that to form your own opinion.
Right.
We're not here to tell you this is what you're buying. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you'd have to make sure that you go out of your own way to watch reviewers who you do not agree with, because you don't want to be stuck in your own echo chamber either.
Exactly.
Oof, dangerous. Okay. How often do you see genuine improvements from pre-release to retail/post-launch software, camera quality or otherwise, and should old reviews still be up in that case? This is a tough one. We've talked a lot about this on Twitter.
Yeah, it's tough. And you brought up the difference between a written review and a video review in the past. It's also very difficult to go back and edit a video review on YouTube, unless you just have video replace available to you all the time, in which case, go for it. Yeah, some products do change a little more vigorously than others. I think my rule that I've spoken before is buy a product based on what it is today, and if it happens to get better over time, that's a nice bonus. But if you don't like what you're buying in the first place and you're buying it based on the promise of a software update, you're making a mistake.
Yes.
So that's, I guess that's my blanket answer generally for that. You will sometimes see products who have like C- cameras turn into B+ cameras, and like that's a big enough of a difference where now you would buy it versus you wouldn't have. Those are rare, but sometimes they do happen, and I'd say it would be nice to be able to go back and edit the video, but the best I can do is probably pin a comment. But yeah, I think that's pretty few and far between.
That would be where annotations come in perfectly. If you could still do it.
Oh, I miss
Instead of
those.
being, I get it that people like abuse the hell out of that, but you should be able to work your way up to being able to use annotations and it's way better than having to make a video updating it. You can just go back and say like, oh, a software update came out about this, and a link to an article about how it changed or something.
Yeah, and there are companies out there who have this like serial track record of releasing a product and then having a day zero update that changes a lot of stuff materially. But here's the thing, and people get on me about, you're beating up on this manufacturer, you know they do this, you know on launch day they're going to have an update and it's going to change the thing. Sometimes, the way my schedule works out, I'll be able to hold the review and, maybe I evaluate it after launch day because that's the way it worked out. But look, the minute those phones or whatever they are on pre-order, which they are usually for 2 weeks before launch, and people can spend money on the thing, but if you can ship it with software that I can evaluate based on that foreknowledge, then there's nothing I can do for you. I'm going to run this review and I'm going to say, hey, I sure hope they fix this, Zoom problem with an update. And we'll see if they do, but I don't think you should spend money on it until they do.
That should be the whole point of a review unit.
Yep, shouldn't it?
It's to represent the thing that we'll review it. I have an interesting one here is, and maybe you can think of something you have in the past, but do you think large reviewers like yourself have actually shaped the trends in tech? Like they give examples, my hard stance on flat glass versus curved glass, or a higher refresh rate. How much do you think those have maybe affected products in the future? And I think maybe it comes as like a trickle-down effect, like we will express an opinion, and with enough agreement from an audience, then it looks like a large group of people have this opinion, and then it sort of makes its way into a product.
I think you're right. I think it's more of a broad thing, at least in terms of me, and I think a lot of the folks that I know and watch. You can move the needle. Like Marcus, you've had videos in the past where you have been the first one to discover something really wrong or really right with a product, and the rest of us are like, oh wow, okay, they're definitely going to change that already for the next gen. I think, I can't point to any examples of my own. I'm sure there have been ones. I'm sure I've been in conversations with engineers after the fact. I will say this, my tone is what I watch. I think it's easy when you first get into the reviewing game, maybe especially if you're trying to make a name for yourself and you want to be, you're a little crass, you're a little, well, this is just amateur hour. How could anyone not foresee this when they're designing a product? You talk to these people who make these things, and it's, first of all, not only is it hard, but tens or hundreds of people have put real work and effort into making this thing that you just kind of spent 5 seconds tearing apart. And you didn't really need to do that. So I think that's what it's been for me. I can't say I've seen changes. I've seen changes in myself in terms of how much I respect the work and how hard it is to make a product, and I try to criticize them a little more professionally than maybe I used to.
Alright, so someone asked, what's the most outlandish pitch you've ever gotten when a company wants you to review their product? And I I guess we could take that as we've already talked about sponsors and reviews not being in the same. So let's just say most outlandish pitch someone sent for a paid promotion or something along those lines.
Oh wow.
Well, that's funny. I can't remember many.
I mean, I just know maybe it's just people who are blanket carpet bombing, like emailing tons of people. But just like, will you review our like pregnancy product? Will you review our jewel?
Yeah.
Like just don't have anything to do. They're not even like trying to sponsor it. It's just like why did you
Clearly don't watch the channel and just are trying to hit all the big names pretty much. And
Absolutely.
And then they reply all.
Oh, yes. Don't reply all, folks.
My God, why would you do that?
Actually, I'll tell you about the pitch that broke my heart. I just looked it up. Hi, Michael. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to bring you a travel opportunity to see if you might be interested. Our cruise client will be setting sail on a 14-day Thailand and Vietnam